Hello, hello, hello. If you can see us, if you can hear us, please do let us know. Today is a pretty exciting day. There's lots of fun things on my mind, and totally not because the amount of video game announcements that are completely unrelated to Lorebeards that have been coming out have me absolutely jazzed out of my mind right now.
A couple of which I was also like, "Oh, I'm going to be reliving my Nintendo childhood very soon."
Yeah, today's been like,
yeah, okay. I'm a sad gaming geek, and the second they went, Ocarina of Time, I was like, I'm losing like several days of my life sometime soon.
Yep. But in addition to that, there is the actual Lorebeards excitement as well, as some of you may have noticed that Lorebeard shorts have officially started. They're happening. Two of them have already come out.
I didn't even notice. I'm going to have to go watch them.
Well, there you go.
Exciting.
So those have started to be unleashed, which is super duper exciting. We're hoping that will put eyes on Lorebeards much more and help me able to short beards. Yeah, exactly.
Short beards.
We've got Lorebeards trimmed, which is the cut down episodes, and we got short beard shorts, and then we got the regular Lorebeard shows.
It's genuinely quite funny.
Yeah. This episode though is going to be a pretty nice, fun show one. You know, it's Tuesday. It's not the crazier one. This one should be Lorebeards clippings. Oh, that's gross, but also, that's really good.
Living legend!
I wish I had thought of that.
I wish I'd thought of that too, although you've thought of it. So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Very nice. Well done. For that, I'm actually going to promote you to be a mod on the Lorebeards Twitch account. I'll do that when I have some time. Any event. Not your ideas from the Dragon Ogre short? Well, you should have stolen the idea, but I appreciate you being honest. In any event, today we're going to be talking about the major ports of the Warhammer Fantasy world. We are going to be journeying all across from the shores of Nagaron to the far east of Grand Cathay, down to the lands of Lustria, all the way up to along the Sea of Claws. We're going to be all over the world.
Yeah, I'm particularly looking forward to this one because it's something that speaks to lots of different types of people who enjoy Lorebeards. On one side, we're just going to be discussing Warhammer lore, which is fun. On another side, we're going to be discussing several of the locations that you can pop up and see in places like Total War. So you're like, oh, it's that place. Right, gotcha. That's where it is. I understand now. And it's always nice to dive into those. But it also speaks quite heavily to the role-playing side of things because we know many of you are role players. And one of the things that the roleplay game often does is it starts in the Empire, and then at some point, someone gets excited and goes, let's go in a ship and travel somewhere and see a different part of the Warhammer world. And this gives us an opportunity to look at the primary gateways into many of the different other parts of the Warhammer world that are often forgotten by people who are role-playing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, if only for that tiny little detail, because it gives us an opportunity to perhaps inspire a bunch of folks to try out a different way of playing their games at home.
Yeah, and this one actually is probably it's a particularly fun tier list to do that we were just sort of spitballing ideas after Sunday and landed this one. Oh, of course. But just because it's going to take us to so many different groups and factions and all sorts of other like species and things. So there's a lot of really good stuff to talk about, which is just good. It's great.
Yeah, totally. I'll also say that there's a host of quite arbitrary decisions because there's several factions that have got multiple big, huge, in fact, ports. And we've got to make a call because we can't just sit, for example, with all of the Dark Elf cities and just drop them all on because they're all pretty much, all the ones on the coast at least, gigantic ports and centers of trade or shipbuilding or something else. So in some places, we're going to be just basically choosing one for that area. And we'll have a brief discussion about some of the other places as well when we're there, but it will be brief.
Yeah, and that is the big note is with these tier list streams, me and Andy have in the past attempted to be like, we got to make sure we get everything on there. and then we realized what a horrible mistake that was as we came crashing into time problems. So
5 hours later, help! Help!
So we hard narrowed it down to a list of about 12 to 13. It's very possible that someone might shout one out during the stream. We might be like, oh yeah, we could like discuss that one for a little bit as we kind of go, but we tried to get just a collection of them that are very scattered across the world.
We want to get a good flavor of what you get in different parts of the Warhammer world, and that flavor is not going to be all encompassing. We can't literally do everywhere. For example, if I pick up the comment there from Bouncy Snake, Sartosa, it would be an obvious choice. But if we're talking about the Tillian city-states, there's another choice that is a bigger and arguably much more impressive port. And that's the one we've gone for rather than Sartosa. But that doesn't mean that you can't sit in the background and go, Sartosa, please.
Okay, hold on. I have to derail the stream for just a moment.
Oh, already.
I have to derail the stream because I just got sent this in the Lorebeards. Lorebeards Discord.
Okay, that's quite funny because it's also quite accurate.
Apparently, well, now we know what Toddy looked like 30 years ago. There we go. That's so funny. So stupid looking. Thank you. That made my evening. Thank you very much. That's that's an excellent image. Okay. Anyway, back to getting on topic. So like usual for tier list streams, these are just nice, kind of casual, fun ones. Whenever we introduce something that we're going to talk about for a little bit, and then we will end up putting it up for you all as a vote for y'all to determine whether you think it should be the absolute best thing imaginable up at the legendary S tier, or if it is the most horrid example of what a port could possibly be all the way down into funky tier. Because we don't have tier for the reasons, but you know, it's fine and it works. Hawk, I know you're around, I think. Are you able to handle Twitch and I can do YouTube? And if not, let me know, and that's fine.
Just to bring up Hawk, because we should always say thanks to Hawk. Hawk is our secret Lorebeard in the background, constantly doing secret Lorebeard things, and he's just the best. Thanks very much, Hawk.
If you're out there going, man, they're so much more consistent on the podcast and literally everything right now, why is everything running so smoothly? It's because it's literally just Hawk.
Yeah.
just him.
Hawk's brilliant.
Literally just running everything in the background. All right. So
on a bike.
With that, unless we've got anything else, I think we're ready to start clambering into our first city, unless there's anything you got before we get going.
No, I don't think there is anything I have other than possibly getting through the super chats that we have first.
That would be one, yes.
And also having a look at the list, because I can slyly see the list off at the side over here as well. If they're not reordered already, I would definitely like the one that's currently third on my screen, at least I think it's third, go all the way to the end, because I think that's possibly a better place for it. Let's see if it's in the same on your screen. I can't see what you're going. I've got a different version of my list.
Yes, I already did that. I think
you've already done it. Brilliant. Yes. Don't need to worry about it then. Yes.
The functionally bonus one. Yes, I have. I already moved it.
Brilliant. Great. That's all I have to say. So let's dive into some super chats. Say hello to everyone and then get started.
Perfect. All right. So starting off with Ammonite. First stream I've been able to see live in a while. Well, it's lovely to see you. Thanks for coming by.
It's really good to see you.
Hope you guys have a good one. Hyped as hell for this topic. Love hearing you guys talking about the nitty-gritty of things from the Netherlands.
Well, you know, the Netherlands might have a Warhammer equivalent port coming up soon.
Yeah, port Netherlands couldn't be.
Nah.
Please glaze Marienburg while you're at it, says the guy from the Netherlands. Okay, there we go.
You know, it's not going to be hard. Marienburg is a very impressive port in the greater scheme of things, as we'll be discussing soon.
Yep. We got Decius, currently on the second Nagash book. I'm so sorry that you're doing that.
You love that book so much.
When they're talking about the relations between Cathay and Nehakara, do you think one of the dragons ever visited human Cetra or Nagash? No. I do not think the dragons themselves would have come to Nehekara during Cetra's era, because it was much. Cetra was more of like a big conquering warmongerer who likely they probably heard about, especially when he started stretching into the Darklands, but he would have probably died well before their nations became close enough to one another where they would start having regular visits. And then Nagash, when we already know from the old world timeline and some of the Cathay timeline stuff that when word of Nagash started getting back to Cathay, Cathay clammed up. Cathay basically started cutting off trade because they were so worried about Nagash. Now, a dragon visiting outside of those eras, I think it's reasonable. I mean, considering that Miao Ying went all the way over to see Sigmar, I wouldn't put it past them to have visited Nehekara, some of them. But I bet Yin Yin definitely did. But I don't think it would have happened during either of those two characters' eras.
Yeah, I agree. But I will add that caveat that I would have also said Sigmar met a dragon. Nah, probably not. But then they went and did it. Every single time we say something like this here, we've got to add that little bit of extra dusting around it saying Games Workshop loves having their characters meet each other, even when it doesn't make any sense. And they will happily overwrite older lore if they've got a new story that they want to tell. So whilst I don't think it makes a great deal of sense given what we've been given so far about both the characters involved, the locations and the timelines, it is definitely something they could just go, you know what? Yeah, this happened.
Yeah, it's that constant conundrum of the Warhammer world is a gigantic place, but there are some writers that come over from GW that treat it like it's a neighborhood.
Yep. Hard yes to that.
Yeah, I would say as of yet, the evidence supports the answer being no, but it could very easily change. They could very easily be like, Zhao Ming heard about a great conqueror of the Darklands. And he went out and etc. And he was like, hey, what's up? Who knows?
Hard truth.
Jonathan King, hello, mighty Lorebeards. Just watching the Slayers Trimmed, loving the Trim series so far. Thank you, first of all, for watching it. Second of all, please leave a comment and a like on it if you do. We'd love to justify making more of those, and as of yet, that is not looking like the case. So if you love those, please share them around or post them on your favorite subreddits and all that stuff, because those would need to get way more watches to justify the amount of effort that goes into making them. Yeah, indeed.
We might find that every once in a while we do one because we like them, not because they are cost effective.
Yeah,
they just aren't.
Super not.
They're super not. We need to have a whole heck of a lot more people watching them to make them worthwhile, or thousands of comments there, which makes YouTube just throw it out at people. So if you do enjoy them, dive into those videos and drop some comments in. It'll be really helpful, and we'd like to make more. As it currently stands, we're currently focusing instead upon the shorts, and we'll figure out what we think's better as the months go by.
Yep. Slushy Raccoon. Delightful name. How often do the fishmongers of the world sell exotic fishman meat? Probably simultaneously, never, and more often than you think.
I think that's a good answer. Yeah, I mean, never is the obvious answer, but let's be honest, meat of dubious origin is a core story component of many Warhammer story, particularly in the roleplay game. So the idea that some fisherman had found a method of scoring meat that he could sell off to the local fishmonger et al., and it was from a really dodgy source, is not just a likely adventure, it's almost certainly one that an average Warhammer Fantasy roleplay writer would just immediately go, yeah, I'm doing that. And it's a horrible tale if you think about it, carving up the big bottom half of the fish of various merfolk. Not nice.
It reminds me, I'm almost done with the Genevieve series. I'm in Beast and Velvet now, and it is absolutely hilarious how just disgusting of a place Altdorf is in that series. And Beast and Velvet deals a lot with the docks, especially early on in the book, and it's the amount of quotes you get about how hard the food conditions are is hysterical. Yeah. Where it's like, yes, fish that was caught 10 years ago finally hitting the market. You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Armisia, S tier Barak Var or we riot. Well, we'll see what happens.
Well, you're going to have to vote for it if that's going to be the case. But yes, you've guessed that Barak Var is definitely going to be on the list.
Watchdog, which port had the largest concentration of pirates? I mean, Sea Panthers.
Sea Panthers, that's the Knights Panther at sea.
Okay, gotcha.
And if we're just talking Sea Panthers, well, they're all up and down all the way down to Araby. But, I mean, it's obviously Sartosa. It is pretty much Games Workshop's port of pirates. Port of pirates, almost. So that's the obvious answer. And then we can obviously pop over to the Vampire Coast as well for a whole bunch of eternal pirates pirating. Yar, as a limb falls off. But your largest pirate port is probably Sartosa. And we did discuss putting Sartosa on the list. At the moment, Sartosa is not on the list. Instead, we've gone for Tilia with... You'll find out very soon.
Yes. P2 Jack, can't wait to see you guys discuss the ports. Haha, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that one.
Shadow of the Horned Rat was still the best port. Wait. It's interesting how much English just recycles the same words for way too many things. Way too many things. Petrus, thank you for the 4 months. Hi. Which port would you like to develop in depth? We will discuss that in today's stream because there's several on this list.
Yeah,
there's the answer is going to be all of them.
Yeah, there's one of them in particular I would very much like to see in depth. So when we get there, I will call out and say, back when you asked this question, it's this one.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a pretty obvious when we get there and we go, hey, this place, it's a place, it's big. What do we know? Whew, it's a port. Woo!
yes, indeedy.
Pretty sure Ryan knows which one I'm thinking on.
Yeah. Yeah. We do know in human port cities, Manon and Elven ones, Mathland is being a patron deity. What about dwarfs, Cathayans, and what about Stromfells? So Stromfells, according to the very admittedly much less written about it than there should be. Sartosa has like one of the only recognized temples to Stromfells in the world, and he is a big boy there. Like he is the patron of Sartosa. The dwarfs, Barak Var is not really written having a patron ancestor god, which they should. They really should. But there isn't one that is accredited with being kind of their major focal point. You would guess it would be maybe debatably the god of the ancestor god of engineers, which tends to be credited to Morgrim.
Yeah.
So that would be a likely option, but then you'd also feel like that would be more Zufbar's thing than Barak Var's.
Yeah,
but because the ancestor gods, as far as we know, never went to sea. Like that's just not something they're associated with. And yeah, it's kind of one of those unfortunate shrugs. You'd think they'd have something, but Barak Var hasn't received that level of exploration to detail that as much as it should.
And Cathayans don't have gods, but they do have dragons. And we'll be getting onto that very soon.
Yes, and we do know the patron dragon by far is Yin Yin. Giri Garanda said, which one is the spaceport or furthest inland?
Okay, that's quite interesting because there's many huge ports that are quite inland in Warhammer. We're not going to be discussing pretty much any of those today. The most famous one is Altdorf, which holds the Imperial First Fleet. And just outside Altdorf, there's a big open area of water called the Reichsport, which is in the middle of a big marsh area. And the Reichsport holds the Imperial First Fleet, which is a big fleet that's largely a river fleet of warships because it doesn't actually take to the high seas that often. But it is hundreds of miles inland. Yeah, it has water that's deep enough from there all the way down to Marienburg to not just easily accommodate warships, but to very easily accommodate it. Some of the water is exceedingly deep between Altdorf down to Marienburg. So there's a lot of examples of this in Warhammer, particularly if you move to some of the larger land masses into Cathay, for example, where they've got rivers that go all the way up deep inland. But the most famous one's probably Altdorf.
Yes. Pormisia, do the Hordes of Chaos use ports of the Southern Chaos Waste, or do the Southern Chaos Waste have any ports? So the Southern Chaos Waste does not have a port in the sense of like a stable, civilized fortress land settlement. There are places where they will we have seen more what you could call like villages or settlements established along the Southern Chaos Waste coast, which the old world is starting to lean more into. And perhaps over the course of the old world, we might see one of these evolve into some great port city of chaos, because there are cities, or they're less cities and more fortresses, but it could be that a great fortress will arrive along the southern coast. But right now it's literally just mentions of like there are Norskin settlements, but to call them ports would be very generous.
Yeah, super generous. What you often find with Warhammer writing is that someone comes up with an idea and they drop it in. So for example, the Southern Chaos Wastes have nothing. Done. Next writer comes along and looks at it, doesn't read what the previous writers wrote, and goes, oh, I think that there might be a couple of things that happened here, and the details change, and a map changes, and it starts dropping names on. New writer comes along, often doesn't bother reading where those names come from, and just make an entirely new setup. And as each generation of writers comes into it, and whether they're working on the war game or on the roleplay games, they start making their own versions of what each of these local areas are. The Southern Chaos Wastes once were identical to the Northern Chaos Waste. And then they changed massively when they put all of the focus on the Northern Chaos Gate and said the Southern one exploded instead and wasn't really a Chaos Gate in the same way as we understand the Northern one. They both had a very different nature. And it also meant that there wasn't hordes of chaos running around down there. It was just this weird, fucked up place, which later on, they then went, actually, Beastmen come up from there. So suddenly, Beastmen were added into the core of what the Southern Chaos Gate offers. And then when you get they leave from there and go up, you have the immediate question of how? I mean, are they swimming? Who are these guys? What the fuck is going on here? So you'll find that in time, this will probably become part of the bigger story of the Warhammer world, because the Southern Chaos Gate has been ignored. Indeed, in some editions of Warhammer, the Southern Chaos Gate was said not to exist, and only the Northern Chaos Gate existed, because they just got rid of it because it wasn't needed for their Empire and Northern Hemisphere focused factions that they had. However, as the Warhammer world has begun to expand again, particularly with the old world, what's down there has suddenly become much more important and will be a focus for future writers. So this is something we can pretty much categorically say, yeah, none. But equally, I think I can also categorically say that within the next few years, there'll be some, because they're going to expand in the same way that the Chaos Waste in the north have now got loads of settlements kicking around and different places with different names, many of which haven't been detailed, but are most certainly there, because every time they do a new map, they're like, well, what's here? And they start adding names.
The Singemeister, favorite Necromunda gang. I could not care less for Necromunda because there's too few. If there's a Gene Stealer cult one, then it would be them.
There is some. We were discussing this earlier today, Lindsay and I, because Lindsay's entire haircut and vibe was taken from the very first Escher miniatures. But the Escher Jew, for example, with its flicked over, you might know the miniature, the very first metal one for the Escher Jews. And Lindsay loved that. She collected Escher back in the day as well. I painted an entire Escher gang, loved them dearly. And we were discussing how Necromunda was another example of Games Workshop being super gay without intending to or realizing it, with the muscle men Goliaths and the Escher, both of whom are deep into gay stereotypes for both genders, which we thought was quite funny, because we were also discussing the muscle men from the Duarden, which was tying back to the recent stream that we Sunday stream had for Age of Sigmar. And we were talking about how the Duarden Fire Slayers became almost accidentally super gay by the way they were presented, and we thought that was funny, and we were discussing other things on Games Workshop where that had also landed. And as Lindsay often says, she's not just marked out as being gay by many people she meets because of the way she presents in her hairstyle. It happens a lot, and that for me is a constant source of amusement.
Cruz, would you guys consider a stream for building a Nurgle champion? We basically have a stream for each of the other 3 gods from the Tomicon Brothers streams and the Evertrust for Undivided. The grandfather deserves some love too. That's not
a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, you know what, Cruz? I mean, that's definitely one to go on the potential list. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. We have dived quite deeply into the other 3 Chaos Powers, so I do think that there's potentially something there.
Yes, so I would say the answer to that is a firm yes, actually.
Yeah, as to when it happens, we'll see. We've got a lot we have to cover, particularly because we had a period where we were off for quite some time, and quite a few different streams have stacked up because of that.
True, though thank God we're finally caught up with all of the bribed streams. Or damn near close.
Just want to bring this one up. Warrington Crescent, top quality comment.
Darius Rose. Cursed Cities stream. Coronation Street Esphere.
I mean, sure. You know what? Cursed City streams is again another good way to examine the different types of cities that you get across the
I'm gonna add that to the
Warhammer
list.
world. I think adding that onto the list is a good idea, but we'll probably not do it for quite a while because we're currently doing, obviously, ports. And we like to vary things and mix them up. We wouldn't like to do just city stream after city stream after city stream.
Tier list of cursed cities. Yeah, but that's a good one because that is a
That's a good
common
one.
motif.
Thanks, Darius.
P2 Jack, staying up for Lorebeards is worth it. Love from Hobart, Australia. Currently freezing as we move into winter. It also has a proper deep natural port. I wish it was winter here again. It is unfortunately not.
Yeah, it's not winter here either. We're getting into the warmer Scottish months, which means rain, obviously, because we're in Scotland. And yeah, we've even had a few days that were warm, almost hot.
I've had quite a few friends of mine from further south in the UK being like, "We're dying."
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
totally.
That sucks. As I turn my AC down to 68. Darius Rose, how would Frank and Charlie do in the Altdorf sewers? They'd be fine.
Who's Frank and Charlie? What am I missing?
From It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, I've watched all of that. So Frank and Charlie.
They'd be totally fine.
They'd be at home.
Yeah. Decius Metellus, how screwed would the Total War Warhammer world actually be with all these characters being active at the same time? Love to finally catch you live. Well, I mean, technically, if you look at the full roster, only like 3 or 4 of the characters need some like pretty like justification to be there. The vast majority were relatively active at the same time. Yeah. And so it would suck. And the answer is the Warhammer world would suck to live in.
Yeah. And just because not necessarily all of the characters from Total War would be obviously in the same place at the same time because they come from different eras. Each era has its own versions anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So for all we aren't focusing upon, Bob the Grail Knight or Bobette the Tomb Queen or wherever it might be, they've all got their own individual special characters that are just as impressive and as important as the ones that are presented in Total War. They just have obviously different eras that they come from. So I think it would be just as fucked as it always is.
Yeah. I'm on 9, and once we hit 30 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and get into our first one.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Emma Knight, no such Altdorf dirtiness in Marienburg. Hashtag Marienburg sweet. This message was financed by the Marienburg Merchants Guild and the honorable stack holders. Yeah,
good luck with that. Marienburg, definitely fine.
Yeah, definitely the best place in the world. No problems. Heard Corviel, first time watching live. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're season 3 and 4 playlist. It's coming up slowly. I think it might have been answered in the chat as well by Hawk, but loosely we're uploading all of season 1, 2, 3, and 4 day by day by day by day. And I say we, Hawk's doing it. Thanks, Hawk's
Hawk,
doing
UK Gas. Thanks. So they will hit, and we'll have all of the episodes of Lorebeards in one easily accessed place here on the Lorebeards channels.
Yes, and for any that might be missing, I am working on fixing that because due to their age, I guess, some of them have become, you could watch them fine, but trying to download them, the files get corrupted. Not sure what that's about. So I am fixing that, and the way I have to fix that is I literally just have to sit there with a recording software and just watch the entire thing. That's bullshit. And make a new file out of it, which is extremely time consuming. So they'll get there eventually, but everything's getting up eventually. They're coming. Acne Zebra, Skeggy to S tier. Sadly, Skeggy did not make the list, but we'll
No, it did not.
Why. Grand Home Port of Kremlo. That's totally not why I didn't put it on the list, but it would have been a reason why I didn't put it on the list. And his brothers Sven and Ben, I looked it up, who heroically sailed to Zapotek and destroyed it. Yes, the great city Zapotek. Fucking Kremlo, dude.
I love it.
Frogman. Gaston, hey, trying to design an underground plastic surgeon for nobles. Would a Grey Wizard or Jade work better to help with that? Also, is Skeggy a big port? Is Skeggy a big port? No. Skeggy's a lot smaller.
Pretty small.
It's it's more of a village that has way too many fucking people going in and out of it. A plastic surgeon for nobles. Funny enough, I actually wouldn't use a wizard because you get a much more horrific and accurate, I think, to what would be going on situation. But if you really desperately want to have a wizard involved,
Grr. Grr. So the obvious answer is grey to change the illusion of it, but it's going to dispel, it's going to disappear, which means you go back to the face you had. Jade is more about life going out of control when there's too much of it, and that means that it's not going to be good for changing and morphing from one thing to another. Grr does. Grr has so many spells that allow you to change into one thing or another thing. But it's going to require corruption of Grr, because Grr is directly tied into natural forms and natural spirits, natural souls. And what you're trying to do is effectively change a face into something different. So you're going to require some other winds in there, which means ultimately you're probably looking at a backstreet doctor channeling multiple winds and doing something bad. It's going to result in Dar. It's going to result potentially in a whole host of unexpected outcomes. But the core wind in this is probably going to be the wind of transmutation, which is Grr.
Yeah. Okay. And this is the last one I'm going to grab, and then we got to move on real fast just because Super Amaton, thank you very much for the super chat. Just saying hi. I got to go to bed shortly. I have my finals in math tomorrow, and I'm kind of scared despite all the learning I've done. Well, first of all, good luck. You're going to do great. You're going to do great. Hey, make sure you get some good sleep. What is your favorite ship? Do you mean like relationship, like shipping, or do you mean like an actual vessel?
No, look at the episode. It'll be a vessel. It's not going to be your favorite ship between two characters.
I don't assume, all right? I will say my favorite ship that I have seen in the lore would have to be it's either RNS Assault Spites, the swordfish, which is cool. A super kick-ass ship, or it would have to be, just because it's so classic and the Warhammer Fantasy version of it turned out really spectacular, Van Guy's Ghost Ship is also really good.
So I love the high elf ships. I think they're great. However, if I was to call out one that has always made me go, fuck yeah, that's Warhammer as fuck, it's the Black Arcs of Nagaroth.
Yeah,
they're just fucking cool.
They are absolute S tier.
The only miniature that we've had for them, which is for the Man of War game, is shit. It's a very bad version of what a Black Arc should look like. But the actual descriptions of Black Arcs are so freaking kick-ass. So yeah, Black Arcs of Nagaroth, so fucking cool.
Physical ship, for sure, both. I think we'll just leave it on the physical ships.
Many a ship can become quite physical, depending on how it all lands.
All right, anyway, we're gonna get going.
Let's move on swiftly.
So, welcome to the tier list, thingamajigger. So, we have a list of 13 ports, and there's accidentally one because I told Hawk the wrong one, I realized, but that's fine because I already fixed it. But the other one's at the end, and where it's gonna be automatic F tier because it's not a port. So we've got Liangui from Bretonia. We've got Marienburg from the Wasteland. We've got Dienershofen from the Empire, Arengrad from Kislev, then Karkarond from Nagaroth.
Oh, Karkarond. You know, Karkarond is a port as well, you know. It's one of the biggest, it's the shipbuilding port of the Dark Elves. It's got more ships than any other port. So Karkarond is also a good ad.
Yeah, isn't Clarkarond in the mountains though?
So no, it's in a big, massive chasm between two mountains, and the ports run all the way up to it, and it's got all the dry docks on one side, and it's got all the noble houses rising up the mountains on the other side. It is one of the biggest city ports in the world, and it has an enormous amount of shipping. So Clarkarond is also good. It's the problem with the Dark Elves. Pretty much all of them are extraordinary.
I need to go yell at the Total War devs to make a little navigable river that lets
it's required. Because Clarkarond is the big shipbuilding port of the Dark Elves.
Yeah. So, but for this tier list, we're gonna do Karankar, the slave port, because it's the really big one that you see as you come into Nagaroth, where everybody goes. Mm-hmm. Then we're gonna be doing the Awakening. Which is technically Huaddles / the Blood Marshes / it's basically the Vampire Coast. Luther Harkin hangs out.
It's our nod to the vampires, because we're only going to do one nod, not the vampires, pardon me, to the pirates, because we're only doing one pirate port. We could have added Sartosa as well, but as you'll notice, we have
technically the city, quote unquote, that would be looking at as New Beckhoffen, but we're gonna call it the Awakening because it kind of comprises several things around it.
Seems fair.
Then we've got Zandri, the fleet port of terror.
The fleet port of terror.
Yep. We could have done Libris, but we wanted to focus on more main Nehekara, so that takes us to Zandri. We've then got Badakvar, which is the only port of the main Karazhan Corps. Obviously, there are some up there with the Norscan dwarves, but we're focusing on the main dwarves. Then Maragliano. We know a lot of people want to Sartosa, but Maragliano is technically bigger.
It's way bigger, and it's also got the biggest Tilian fleet in the world. So Sartosa is an interesting choice to have, but when we're identifying a single port, then it has to be Maragliano. It's just the bigger one.
Yeah, though I will say, because we got to eat, if anyone is thinking of a port and desperately wants on the list, for $50, we will get that shit on there. We'll get that shit on there. It'll make us run over time.
You are so mercenary, but I love it.
Then we, of course, have the Skaven port of Spineport, which is the great Undercity port that's hidden in the the porous, I guess, rocks across the Gulf from Maragliano. And then we've got the Great Cathayan port, Fushao, over on the eastern coast of Grand Cathay, which we will talk about when we get to it. And then, for some reason that won't be explained until we get to it later, I don't know how it ended up on there, we have Chup Yodel for some reason.
And it is worth noting that Clarkarond, at the end, we could do a very quick pitch on, because it is an enormously important port. It's there, we've got it. It will take us about 10 seconds to discuss, because Clarkarond is, in terms of influential ports in the world, arguably one of the biggest.
Yeah, but first up, we are in Bretonia with Liangui.
Longueuil, as I have always pronounced it. And, Liangui. You know what? If anyone's in French out there, how do you pronounce that? Because it has always been one of those words, unlike, say, for example, Bordelot, which has dropped in, that I never really had anyone explain how it should be pronounced. So if you're French out there, please discuss it. So this is a super fun one, because many of the Bretonian cities sit on the coast. So inevitably many go, but what about this one or that one? And there's a reason this one's selected. And it's because it has, by far, and not even a small amount, by far the largest merchant fleet and navy, which is big for discussing any of the ports. It's also a core trading port into Bretonia. And there's a reason it's a core trading port. It's because where the High Elves do most of their trading into Bretonia. There's even a nice little High Elf quarter sitting over at the side of the city. And this city, unlike many of the cities inside Bretonia, stands as a different style of Bretonian rulership, because it's largely ruled by, right, you ready? Peasants.
Yeah, this one is very, very interesting, which is a bigger reason why we wanted to pick it. that it has a Amon Knight says
Languille.
So yeah, I'm fine to go with that.
I always pronounce it Longuille, so Languille will do me fine if that's the way of pronouncing it.
Yeah, feel free for anyone else to check that or argue or whatever. Y'all have fun. So this the port of Longuille, which because it's part Longuille is also the name of like the kingdom or the dukedom, but the
duchy.
Yeah, the port itself is Castle Longuille, which the castle is, funny enough, not really just a castle. It all revolves around something that is much, much, much older than the Bretonnians, which is the Great Lighthouse. The Great Lighthouse of Longuille is this huge, towering edifice, this rock that was formed and sculpted and made into kind of like a beautiful, perfect device by the ancient colonial High Elves. And this structure, after the High Elf colonies were abandoned and they fled to go fight against Malekith or Malarian back in Ulthuan, eventually the Brittany tribes would move in and take this place as their own. And they started to build up around it at the base of it, and eventually built a castle onto it, and like villages grew out and around, and it evolved to be larger and larger until it became the great city port that it is today. But like Andy said, one of the things that's very, very unique is that even though it's the capital city of this dukedom, it has a very unique relationship because it's not ruled over nearly as much or pretty much at all by knights, especially because the Duke Talbert, isn't there, even though he should be.
And he hates it for a reason. He hates it because it's storm-tossed, horrendous weather, true high cliffs and awfulness, and he lives summering it by comparison deep inside Longuille itself. So he allows the place to be ruled obviously by people he appoints, but it's largely ruled by merchants, and this is enormous for Bretonnia as a whole, because unlike the vast majority of Bretonnia, which is backward in comparison to the rest of the old world, it has a technology level that's significantly far behind the rest of the old world. It wages war in a very different way that relies upon divine magics in a way that other places don't, and has replaced technology in the way that the Empire does not engage with its war. It uses technology all over the place, as does Tilia, as does Estalia. Bretonnia doesn't. It uses magics instead, both divine and arcane. That's not the case as we move to Longuille. Here, it's ruled by merchants who are not bound up by all of the honor and all of the divine requirement of the lady. They still worship the lady. The lady is core to all of their existence. But Longuille has been built in a different way. They've got trading fleets that move in and out, and they require protection. And a part of that protection is an entire Bretonnian navy, which is funded almost entirely by the merchant class. This is not handled by the rich nobles, as it would be in many parts of the empire. And this is creating a completely different style of politics, because think of it in terms of just basic money. The Duke, for all he's taking taxes in, is weak and powerless money-wise in comparison to the merchants, because they're the ones who are dealing with all of the money that's coming in from the trade as they're exporting and importing different goods into Bretonnia, and they are becoming rich, really rich. And that deep richness has turned into the local nobles and knights having to turn to them to fund things, which turns into true power. The middle classes of Bretonnia have no existence, really. There is no middle class. It's basically just peasants and nobles, except in Longuille, there is a middle class. And the middle class has risen to such a point that they're considering two different routes as to how to best continue on. Route number one is absolute independence. They are considering it, much like Marienburg is independent to the Empire, they're considering doing something similar, or alternatively just becoming the rulers of Longueuil itself within Bretonnia. And they have enough power that not only are they considering this, they're doing it publicly. This is not a quiet thing. And they're doing it because the individual merchants, who are largely unnamed because they're not knights and you can't use them in the Warhammer game, so screw those guys, but they are arguably more important than the King of Bretonnia in some regards. Because they're so rich. They run the fleets, and those fleets have become a core force multiplier for Bretonnia on the world stage. This is a route into Bretonnia that is so unlike Bretonnia, so different to Bretonnia, that it deserves us having a discussion about it. If you like Bretonnia and you like the knights and the maidens and the crazy magics that they have and their big flying monsters doing crazy stuff, this is not the place for you, because this is a place of money and mercenaries and ships with cannons.
Yeah, if you're someone out there that really loves kind of what's kind of become the popular zeitgeist of the Bretonian, like, oh, Bretonians have one of the most powerful navies because they've got cannon ships and they still manage to be protected by like knights flying around on Pegasus and stuff. Like, these guys are the closest to that image than elsewhere. Okay, Andy's giving all these nice thumbs up, all these nice comments about pronunciation. I get fucking Ryan has to pronounce it. Longueuil is probably the best compromise here. Fuck you guys. Look at me. You guys are mean to me. But one of the other things about this city is that of all of the trade, having a port in this part of the world is very, very dangerous, because they're kind of in this large, it's not a gulf but if you zoomed like really, really far out, it almost looks like a continental gulf, that when the forces of chaos especially and the dark elves are approaching the old world, one of the most exposed locations is this sort of big cutout between like Norska, the Empire, and Bretonnia, and Longueuil is like right there. But they have a huge natural protective advantage, which is this thing known as the Dragon's Maw. Yep. Which is this great shelf of horrible spiked rocks that almost looks like a great monster's mouth coming out of the ocean, that is covered in fog and has all sorts of bizarre, seemingly magical enchantments that make it nearly impossible to sail. But that's why they have the big fuck you lighthouse that has this great enchanted light created by the high or actually no, just the elves. They weren't even high elves at that time. Just the elves at the height of their power that helps guide ships that they want to guide onto it. And there's also, as of the old world lore, a great elven fortress at the heart of the Dragon's Maw where Sea Lord Ashland himself rules from.
Yeah, it's cool. Now, if we're being balanced, because I think it's important to balance this, Longueuil is not one of the biggest ports in the world. No, it's just a big Bretonnian port by comparison to the other ports of Bretonnia. It's a unique location with its own fleets, its own surrounding terrible, I mean, it really is an awful coast to land at. It's a natural port that sits amongst horror. And that's both an advantage in terms of protecting it, but also a massive disadvantage in terms of getting into it with ease. It just isn't easy. It's a difficult port to get access to, and to trade with it requires potential loss. But that does mean those that use it tend to make ultimately more money, because anyone who's willing to take that risk gets paid more, which makes it an inviting prospect to the more daring of merchants that are out there. So if we're balancing it off, this is not the biggest seaport in the world. It has a very effective fleet that is very unlike Bretonnia as a whole. It's, in terms of the story of Bretonnia, a fascinating location, but ultimately its fleets are smaller by some measure in comparison to, say, Tilia, in comparison to Estalia, in comparison to the well, maybe not the Empire, but definitely the Wasteland. It's a smaller location, but it has a host of really cool places, like the giant, massive lighthouse. Elves have got their own quarter here. The Empire's got its own quarter here, as does probably Estalia and Tilia et al. It's a cosmopolitan city that stands in complete and direct contradiction to most of how people consider Bretonia as a whole.
Yeah, and it's it's unimpenetrable. It has been sacked several times by the forces of chaos. It's lost various battles. It is not the most populous on this list by any stretch of the imagination. It is impressive for Bretonia, but when you're looking on a world scale, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. And consider that when you're considering how you'd like to vote to place it. Is this the biggest city? No, it's quite small in the greater scheme of cities. Is it the most impressive militarily? No, it's not. Its military is actually quite weak, but its navy is quite strong. So is it impressive in terms of its naval strength? Again, in the greater scheme of Warhammer, no, it's not. It's an impressive navy, and it's a navy that really shocks in terms of its capability to move. It's swift, it's fast. In terms of its ship design, it's closer to Elven designs than it is to the classic Norse designs with their clinker builds. It doesn't look like Imperial ships. They look very different, and they're swifter and faster, relying primarily on broadsides rather than cannons to front or rear. It's a fun, exciting place, but how you want to tier it is entirely up to you.
Yeah, it's a unique culture. It's got a lot of good things going for it. It has a unique form of burgeoning independence that might evolve into something if it, weren't for the fact the world's about to blow up. And it's a unique place in the world that has the potential to become something great. Yeah. But debatably, it's not there yet.
I would argue it's one of the best role-playing places in Bretonia if you want something that acts as a bridge.
About to pop off.
Yeah, it's a place that acts as a bridge into Bretonia as well. So if you're used to using characters that have technology, if you're used to using the standard Warhammer pantheon, all of them are represented in Longueuil. They're all there because they've got peoples from across the world who have come and they trade and they move out. It's got elves there, it's got dwarves there. It's a place that feels like a cosmopolitan Warhammer city, but with a strong Bretonian theme all the way through it. It's great. And then you can move into deeper Bretonia and go, holy shit, this place is different to the rest of the old world. What the fuck? But it provides a nice bridging point because it's got Bretonian stuff, but it's not so Bretonian that it will be an alien environment for new groups. And it has also its own unique politics, which make for some interesting stories that can be told there.
Yeah. So with that, I am going to put this one. I think it's reasonable to have this one be an ABCD because it's not one of the great ports of the world. Because Bretonia, frankly, just doesn't have one of the great ports of the world.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's got an impressive fleet. It's got an impressive everything, and they're for Bretonia. But that's it. It's being modified. Bretonia is not one of the great naval nations of the Warhammer world. It's not the elves. The elves are the great naval nations of the Warhammer world by some significant amount, in that the elves control the high seas in a way that the other various factions wish they could.
Yep. So be sure to get your votes in on that. I'm going to grab some super chats while we're doing that, but the polls are up and the Twitch one will be up in just a moment because thank you, Hawk, for handling that. But your options are A, B, C, D. Of A is that, for not being one of the greatest ports of the world, it's pretty good. It's a fun place. You'd like to be there. You think it represents what a port should be in Warhammer. Though, of course, you could decide what you think makes A, B, or C, or D. Maybe you're like, it's Bretonian. That means A for me. Or maybe you're a hardcore Bretonian fan and say, how dare those peasants? How dare those peasants think they could make a middle class straight to D?
Rude.
So however you want to do it, those are up. Sedgemeister, do you still want that prophecies list? Yes, please DM that to me. I know what you're talking about. Please do send that to me in DMs. Alfonso Blancas, one of those. Nagaron to S.
It's Alfonso.
Alfonso, thank you. There we go. Alfonso Blancas. Man, it's like a game where you just have to look at a collection of letters.
I know.
Suss something out of it. Nagaron to S tier for the Witch King.
Actually, we discussed putting Nagaron in.
We did discuss Nagaron, but we felt that it's not as far as ports that a culture that revolves around the fact that it is a port. It is not that. Nagaron
Correct.
tends to focus around other things.
Yeah.
That being said, I will take this to shamelessly say, because once again, I'm trying to run a company here. If you're sitting there in the dark watching these votes come in for Languille, and either because you love it or hate it, you think everyone's opinions are bullshit and that you should be able to take over like the merchants and declare independence from the mass chat for a mere $50. A hefty $50, depending on where you are in life, you can just decide to put it somewhere. And if you see someone else put it somewhere and decide, fuck that, you want to put it somewhere else, you can usurp their opinion for $50. But that's just there for the people that want it. Otherwise, the masses decide.
Sounds good to me, I suppose.
I know there's someone out there that's like, how? I've seen your comments. I know there's some people that are like, how fucking dare you? It's a tier list. Make your own tier list. It doesn't matter.
Of course it doesn't matter.
I know there's at least one guy out there that fucking hates it, but we're trying to have fun. Come on. Dominic Lynch. Hi, Andy. Have you read or watched Gormenghast?
Both.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I've done both.
There you go.
Yes is the answer. Really enjoyed it.
Skitari Boy. Does that Gur thing you mentioned mean a dark version of Gur, like demonology for Hish and necromancy for Shaish, could be a form of biomancy?
I think, Skitari, that would be one way that you could easily take Gur, in that it could become some equivalent of flesh crafting. If you know the Zamitzi from Vampire, for example, you could definitely take it down that route if you wish to do so.
Yes, indeed. Tablam! The Anguille to S tier. No need to discuss it. Have a discussion.
Are you by any chance slightly biased there? Maybe just slightly.
The guy named Tablam? No, of course not. Couldn't be. Friend or trader, petition to have any port in a storm be a rank. That is such a Languille. Languille. I like saying Languille more. I've in my head I was like 2 L's. French means E. Anywho, so I don't know how long we put it up.
It's already gone up for. It's already finished over on YouTube because I checked that one. So I can tell you that one if you want.
Cool. I'm waiting for Twitch to finish. Hawk, I'm sorry, I should have told you a time. Let's give like no more than 3 minutes for these, just because the Twitch chat is smaller anyway. So and whenever it's done, feel free to just like post whatever it is in chat. Is Lothern on the list? Yes, actually. Okay, I actually see a couple of comments I can knock out here. I see some people asking about why did we not put Minglezar Nagrand. The Chaos Dwarfs aren't. It's a very unusual situation with them. We could have. I mean, bluntly, it's so far inland, it's almost ridiculous. It's not really a seaport, which is sort of what we're doing here, not river ports. And yes, it's got the entire Chaos Dwarf fleet coming out from it and going down that river, destroying everything, but it's not quite right. But if you want to add it on, I'm sure we could probably take a gigantic bribe if anyone really wants to see it on the list, and we'll discuss it out. But if you want to just see us discuss it, go check our stream about the city, because we've already discussed it in depth. That's how I would put it. Yeah. All right. All the votes have come in, and we have an agreement on all chats, and by an overwhelming amount, B.
That's good, solid B. And you know what? I think that makes sense.
I do too. I will say I think personally, in my own head, I would have put it C tier compared to everything else that's on the list. But I think it kind of gets a little bit of an advantage because it's the first one on the list, so it makes sense for it to end up in B.
So I think it makes a good B tier because it does fuel almost the entirety of the Bretonnian Navy. It is important for that. It is not a city that has a split amongst it and other cities in the same faction for the dominance that it has. If we go to the Dark Elves, all of them could almost be on this list, except for, some of the watchtowers up in the north and obviously Grand. But the Dark Elf cities are all extraordinary when it comes to discussing them, where this isn't. But unlike the Dark Elves, its extraordinary nature is split across multiple places. where here it's got almost all of it by itself. The entirety of the majority of the merchant fleet of the Bretonnians comes out of Longueuil. So I think it's a definite B candidate, but if I was pushed, I think I might have seed it as well.
Yeah, that's reasonable. And man, someone just posted like actual pronunciation guide from a Frenchman of the word in chat, and that is not pronounced at all like I thought it would be. Anguilla. So it'd be Leonguilla, apparently. That is, man, there's a lot more syllables in there than I was expecting. French. All right. Anyway, that takes us from Bretonnia and me having to say that city ever again on to Marienburg.
Marienburg. So there's something we can say immediately about Marienburg, and I think it has to be said. This is the biggest port in the old world. So let's start with being as clear as we can be. It's bigger than any of the others, be that the Empire, Kislev, Bretonnia, Estalia, hell, anywhere. It's the biggest. It's built across multiple islands, and it used to be part of the Empire. But approximately 200 years ago, it, being so rich, bought its way to freedom from the Empire, and is now, in terms of the wasteland, which is the entirety of what used to be the westerland of the Empire, an entirely free, sort of democratic state around Marienburg at its heart, in the center of the marshes. Now, there's a few things to discuss about Marienburg so we understand what it looks like. It is an ex-Empire city. So it used to be a part of the Empire. So all of the things that you know and understand about the Empire apply here. The fleet of Marienburg used to be the Empire's first fleet. No longer is, because it's not part of the Empire. So the first fleet used to run from here used to be the primary force projection of the Empire into the sea, and they lost it. So all of the Empire vessels that want to go to sea have to pass through Marienburg and pay through the nose to get anywhere. Now, you might think, then why the hell don't they just try and take it? Because surely they would. And there's a lot of reasons why they don't. One of them is that there is more people in Marienburg than almost anywhere else in the Empire. Almost certainly well over 1 million to 1,200,000 easily. It's huge! And not only is it huge, it's supported by all manner of extraordinarily powerful merchant princes. And not just Wastelander merchant princes, but also Elven merchant princes. It's the primary colony in the old world for the High Elves. The High Elves have got more here than almost anywhere else in the old world. In fact, you could probably tot up all the other places, and it would still be more High Elves here.
Yeah, it has so many elves to the point that there are several authors in Warhammer Fantasy at the moment who, like, if you go back to like first edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, or you look at some stuff that's coming out for modern 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, that the elves here are considered their own, some authors consider them their own subculture called Sea Elves.
Yeah. And they've got their own name, they've got their own thing. They're not really anything other than High Elves.
High Elves. For all
they're High Elves. Particularly when you actually take a look at Elven lifespans. I mean, like 300 or 400 years. I mean, it's been to some of the elves. This is just an empire city, and it's just currently in a state of rebellion. 200 years is nothing to them. But it's the primary trading hub, and it's a primary trading hub for almost every other group in the Warhammer world that you could arguably put on the, friendly side. All of the old world trades into Marienburg. Marienburg is the primary point of access to the Empire for the rest of the world, meaning that if anyone wants to trade with the Empire, they have to trade with Marienburg first.
Keep going. I will be right back. But keep going.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, they have to trade with Marienburg first. That means that Cathaeans, who aren't coming across by land trains and going all the way around by sea, they are trading with Marienburg. But they also trade into Marienburg by long land trains also. All of the old world nations come in through Marienburg. The High Elves mostly do trade with only Marienburg in the old world and allow the merchants of Marienburg to spread out the various goods that they have gained access too. As a city, as I said already, it's spread across multiple islands, has an enormous wall all the way around it, and the River Reich that comes into the city has, in truth, it's not the River Reich that comes in. It's only one small part of the Great Fan Delta that is the Cursed Marshes. So the river, which at some points is upwards of 10, 15, 20 miles wide before it arrives at Marienburg, has actually thinned down to the point where it can be bridgeable. It's the only place that the river can be bridged pretty much between Marienburg and Altdorf. Altdorf's the first place where it gets thin enough because of another enormous marsh that causes the streams of the Reich to split up and the streams of the river Talabek to split up. So it's got bridges across the River Reich here, but it's only a small part of the Reich as a whole. And it is a natural, perfect port with multiple islands that rise up on firm ground, unlike all of the marshes around. The biggest issue with this particular port is access to farmland. It has none. None at all. Meaning that it requires upon the Manansport Sea, which is it's often called Manan's Bounty, a great V of water that is constantly fished to try and support the enormous city. Plus all the marshes and the small villages that dot around those are also being constantly farmed. Heavy quotations here.
To the best of their ability.
Okay, to the best of their ability, but they're not standard crops as we understand them. They're often using them to farm animals of various types that you will get out in the marshes. But the Manan's Bounty is so impressive that it can fuel most of the food needs for this enormous city. Beyond that, it is ruled over by a bunch of merchant princes, all of whom choose one of their member on the directorate to basically run the place. It is sort of a democracy in that they sort of democratically vote, but it's far from a democracy as we'd understand it. There's no nobility. It's run entirely by their equivalent of commoners, which is basically everyone. Having said that, though, several of the merchant houses used to be noble bloodlines, so that's by the by, really. The old noble bloodlines of Marienburg who have separated themselves. I don't know. What else would you like to add to that one?
They have essentially their own version of a colleges of magic. They produce their own wizards. They've got their own notable cults, like some of the cult of Hendrik is very, very powerful here. You've also got a lot of the support from the cult of Manon in this city. So like they're not only a religious hub, a magic hub, a financial hub. They also have some of the largest gatherings of mercenary groups in the world. Yep. They have I would argue, the largest collection of elves in a non-elven city in the world.
Probably, yeah.
It's debatable, but
yeah, probably, yeah.
It is an incredibly important.
I might say Cathay or Nippon might have more in some of their great open ports, but we don't know enough about them to be certain about that.
Yeah. It's also a place that has won some pretty hilariously massive battles. Like
it's also lost some too.
Yeah, it's also lost a couple of battles.
Yeah, it's been sacked more than once.
Yes, the forces of chaos have had some successful victories against them.
Norse
pirates have had some successful victories. There have been some
dark elves, high elves sacked it once.
Yeah, good old Ashland burned the ports bad to make an example out of it. But they always rebuild hysterically quick because there's so much wealth concentrated in this part of the world.
It's a natural port, and ports always gather wealth because you basically have to, if you want to trade with the Empire, you have to pass through this. If you want to trade with it by boat, and boat is the fastest way to move goods by some significant measure. So everyone that wants to trade with the Empire has to come through Marienburg, meaning that Marienburg gets all the benefits of that. So even when it goes down, it very quickly comes back up again. There's a few things to say as well. If you're wanting to go, oh, well, surely it can't just be an S because of the way they're talking about it, because we are bigging it up. It is a city that has been sacked multiple times. It's not frightfully well defended beyond the high elven quarters because often the elves just withdraw and don't provide the support they need. It doesn't have a big navy, which may surprise many of you. It's got a big merchant navy, and that merchant navy relies upon often mercenaries to protect it. They buy protection, and their core routes, they've got a navy, but their core trade routes over up into Erengrad, across down into the rest of the old world down in the south. The merchant navy that they have is often protected by other nations' groups, because you don't fuck with Marienburg, because that's where you get all your money from. They are the core trading hub, meaning that they almost get off with a lot of shit that other groups wouldn't. They're militarily not that powerful. It's, however, in such a naturally defensive place because of all the marshes around it, the only real worry it faces is invasion by water. Yes. Trying to besiege this place is a nightmare. But whenever a superior force comes in by water, you tend to find it loses. And there's no other way of putting it. It does get sacked quite a number of times. So we've got ourselves one of the older cities of the old world, in that it's about 2,000 years old or so. And what used to be one of the most important cities in the empire. It is bigger than Altdorf. Don't forget that. It is bigger than any of the other old world cities. Don't forget that either. But it's also an independent nation, which is small in comparison to many of its neighbors. So it's constantly in a political state of, let's say, instability, where money wins and the directorate is ruled by cash. It's the center of capitalism in the old world, and it has made it fat, but it has also made it rampant with corruption. It is a place that's undermined by Skaven, has more chaos cults than you can shake a stick at.
It totally doesn't have a Sharkman cult that's been
100% doesn't.
A number of times.
Yeah, it's a great place for Warhammer adventures, so much so that multiple novels have been set here. I've had to map the place for some of the novels for Black Library in the past. I did their maps of the place. And it's fascinating. It's a mix of cultures. It's got Cathayan quarters, Indish quarters, Estalian quarters. It's got Southlander quarters. It's got quarters, Nipponese quarters, and quarters from all parts of the Warhammer world. It's great as a place for a pure melting pot of different types, but it's also not classic in that it doesn't have an ability. Instead, it's just got rich people. It's more like the real world, I suppose. The nouveau riche rather than the old money is what rules there. And the Van de Kuipers, for example, are arguably one of the most powerful families in the entire world because of the amount of money that they have gathered and through rampant corruption taken to themselves.
Yep. And like Survivor said in this cheeky cheer, thank you very much. Marienburg could be a great port of the world for Bretonnia once it's claimed by Adalbert, Marquis of Caron, and made a new dukedom in my Immortal Empires campaign. Both the Empire and Bretonnia have attempted to capture this place many times. And hilariously, Marienburg has a much better track record at defending itself from land than it does from sea.
Way bigger, and to the point that when the Empire last did its massive attack to do it, they didn't even reach Marienburg. They got stopped at Gruscher Marsh, which is several hundred miles into the Empire. It's on the border between what's now the Wasteland and the Empire, because where that battle was lost is where they drew the border, which also happens to be very close to the old Westerland border. And the battle for Gruscher Marsh was conducted at a time when the colleges of magic had been banned because of all the messes that they'd made. So they came into it with no real wizards. Instead, they were supported by lots of clerical support. So priests and priestesses chanting away at spells, and the high elves went, "High magic, splat!" and totally fucked them. So the Empire lost that war. Similarly, Bretonnia has been held back again and again and again. The Marienburg by land is almost impossible to take.
Yeah. So with that, it's time for me to go ahead and put up our poll. We'll do an obvious SABC for Marienburg.
Yeah, it's an obvious one, I think.
It's got a unique situation there. I mean, it's one of the most populous places in the world. When it comes to trade, it's one of the greatest ports in the world. If you could find anything in Marienburg.
Yeah, pretty much. It is the center for trade. But do note, this is not a great naval power. And if that matters to you, don't put it at S, because some of the cities that we're going to be discussing after this are. And they make Marienburg look small. So do be aware, Marienburg is just one city amongst many in the Warhammer world as a whole.
Yeah, militarily and defensively, Marienburg is actually pretty unimpressive.
It is, and it's constantly in a state of having to juggle politics around it to ensure that it stays safe. And a lot of those politics are with the merchant princes that are held within Marienburg itself. Anyway, let's dive through some super chats if we've got any more to go with.
Pormisha, can Norska have a chance to build port cities in Southern Chaos Ways? Yeah.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah, totally. And I think that as time goes by, it's very likely we're going to end up with more and more of this suggestion. After all, there are multiple Chaos fleets at different points of Games Workshop's history. And
yeah,
some
GW
of those Chaos
loves
fleets,
their Plague Fleets of Nurgle, for instance.
And the Plague Fleets, as they were before, described all Chaos fleets. They were all called Plague Fleets. So the term Plague Fleet, which is dropped in Man of War as well, also was for the Khorne fleets. And a lot of the Khorne fleets are proper mechanical creations. Some of them filled with demons, obviously, because Khorne. But they're mechanical. They got big jaws and all sorts of crazy shit on them. And they're designed, obviously, to be floating platforms to take Khornate champions into battle. But these all have to be built somewhere, which means that there is shipyards in Norska, the Northern Chaos Wastes, in various places. They haven't really been detailed to any great degree, but yeah, they definitely are around.
Yeah, the Plague Fleets of Chaos literally just tend to pop into existence for some reason.
Bring up this one. In Total War, Slaanesh got naval advantage when using sea lanes. Slaanesh had a damn fine wee fleet with its pleasure palaces as well back in Man of War era.
Getting Gleeville, B for Bretonia. It did turn out that way. Gideon, given the wasteland is kind of low country?
Low countries.
Yeah. I vote the alternative name for Marienburg be Notre Dame.
Rather than Amsterdam. Yeah, quite.
Parmesia, Marienburg S tier, because Manon's Knights, the biggest, every race, wealth, good geopolitical advantage, etc. Result A. Why? They're heretics! There you go. Getting gleeful, does Marienburg have kelp farms?
Not that I recall ever being described to any great degree, but there'd be frickin' tons of it, particularly given the Manansport Sea is said to be a great bounty of not just fish, but all kinds of sea life. So that place is just going to be filled. It's a beautiful piece of the old world.
Yep. And Hawk for the Twitch one, just post the results as soon as they're ready.
Holy crap, it's super close over on YouTube. Please do vote. There's only 3% between S and A. If you have an opinion, go vote now, because it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, get your votes in, and that means Twitch, your vote could be a tiebreaker as well.
Yeah,
Dominic,
totally.
How good is Gorman Gaz before buying them? Just recently heard of it.
They're seminal. They're great. They're older, so the older, slightly more archaic version of English may not suit you. I loved it, but I haven't read Gormenghast since I was about, I think I read them when I was about 15, 16. So, yeah, they're good. I think they're good. I think they're worthwhile. I have other authors I prefer, but yeah, good.
Necroplayer, penalty to Marienburg for resisting against the noble Sea Lord. Ashlyn says, D-tier for Marienburg.
Yeah, totally. Ashlyn would not be impressed with Marienburg. Indeed, he sacked the place with relative ease.
Watchdog, have either of you had experience playing naval Warhammer battles?
Yes. There's a game for it. What was it called again? The Man of War game that they had?
Yeah,
Corsair? Was it called Corsair?
Game, you had Man of War Corsair, which I loved.
Yeah, it's good fun.
It's not and it's actually got re-released on Steam, so you can play it now as part of the gold collection, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty game, but it is a very fun game. It's ugly as sin, but it really is fun to play.
Yeah, I will say though that the old Man of War game is genuinely one of Games Workshop's classics. It is up there with Space Hulk as being one of the better design games that Games Workshop have ever made.
I would kill for them to do like a new version.
Yeah, it'd be amazing, particularly with their ability to make miniatures for it now. When I very first joined Games Workshop a bajillion years ago, Man of War was still at its peak and was being sold in the shops at the time. And I had every single fleet and played it a lot. Really loved Man of War. It was a rare game that had very clean, balanced, good rules.
All right, and that is time.
Alrighty.
And both on YouTube and Twitch, Marienburg just barely manages to get away with a notable S tier.
So, what do you think? S tier?
Personally, I would make it S tier because, to put it very bluntly, as far as Warhammer Fantasy is concerned, Marienburg is the most famous port in the world.
Yeah, and I find this one really hard on a personal level because I love Marienburg so much. I've played there so much with different games, and I have also mapped it, worked on it in various styles. I've hired people to write about it. So I've got a sort of personal stake in this one, which makes it hard for me not to, you know, just automatically love it. But if I'm looking at the overall world stage...
Morning to Kristen, that's actually a great way to put it. Marienburg's soft power would probably be the strongest in the world.
But yeah, if I'm talking about it in world stage, I'd be tempted for A. I'd be tempted to A it and put Longueuil to C, because there are some that are about to come up where I would easily put them higher.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, next up, we're into the Empire proper as we head further north, and we're off to Dietershafen.
So, Dietershafen. What do we do with Dieter? So, what do we do here?
Wait. Exile one. Put these nouveaux riche Yavalthoi in the dirt. D-tier, says the elf fan.
Bye-bye, Marienburg.
Goodbye, Marienburg. Your time was short, but Ashland has ridden in and burned them down to D tier.
And you know, that's totally on point. That's what happens to Marienburg frequently. Hilarious. Thank you for that. If you disagree, you know what to do.
I'm S tier locally, and then the global power showed up.
So, Dietershafen, and this one is being used as an example for the northern ports of the Empire. And there's a reason that we've had to drop this in, because the Empire doesn't have any proper seaports as it's understood for the rest, but it's always worth having a discussion as to what the Empire does have. Now, in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, Dietershafen almost doesn't exist as an important port, because it's just at the point where it's about to become one of the most important naval sites in the world. So it's worth just noting this. There are more important sites at the moment up there, including Severhof, which is in Ostland, including, as we go all the way across, Salkalten, which is on Ostland as well. If we go News Emskrank in the north of Nordland, which is part of Middenheim during Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4's timeline, it's also important. And they're all burgeoning northern fleets. But at the time of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1, 2, and 3, it's completely different. The Empire has two fleets. The Imperial First Fleet, which is grounded into Altdorf. And that's where the Admiralty and the Admiral House can be found. And it moves up and down the waters between Marienburg and the Altdorf all the time. It controls most of those waters, and to get through Marienburg, it has to pay tolls. Most of the captains in the south are nobles. They don't know anything about sea. They just sit in their ships like nobles, ordering others called masters of the vessels, not the captains. They have their commissions, and they order the master of the vessel, who can do the navigation and actually make the ships go from place to place. And they go from place to place without understanding how the ship even works.
Yep,
they have Marines on board, which are just the state army, and they are also, none of them can swim. They're just state army soldiers aboard the vessels, and most of the sailors are not necessarily that good either, because they mostly come from river boats.
There's a notable amount of in-universe jokes whenever people visit Altdorf and they see this great fleet in the river. There's a lot of in-universe characters that are like, those are basically props.
Yeah, they are. But Karl Franz realized this was a problem, and he tried to build his own fleet down in the south and had massive difficulties with it. So he commissioned Nordlander nobles when Nordland became a grand province again, or we go with different timelines, it was always a grand province. And he commissioned the Kuller family in particular up in Dietershafen to build him a fleet. And this became the Imperial Second Fleet. And the man behind this, Leopold, is it Leopold? I can't remember. It's Ludolf Kuller.
Yeah,
Ludolf Kuller became Sea Lord in the north, and he built a proper fleet. All of the captains in this fleet are also fully trained navigators who know how to actually run a vessel. They're not just nobles, but they're commissioned ranks. Remember, in the Empire, commissioned ranks require nobles. That's how it works in the Empire. They're all noble, but they're all trained. Many of them are trained down in the sea school in Marienburg, in fact, where they have a place for training people how to go to sea and be proper sailors. It's by the time of the end times, a huge fleet. Dietershaven moves from being a relatively small Nordland town into a northern sea bastion with the largest fleet in the old world in almost, 10 years? It moves that swiftly. It massively inflates itself, but most of its power is not in Dietershaven. Most of its power is on the sea, because the Empire, for arguably the first time in almost 200 years, starts to use the sea as a primary way of moving out into the world. And it takes control of most of the northern trade fleets. The Northern Fleet does. The Imperial Second Fleet, which is seen to be secondary to the First Fleet in Altdorf, but is, in terms of power, much more powerful. It has multiple grand, huge vessels with over 1,000 crew in each, many of which go away on 6 month to a year tours. And they are going across the Warhammer world from, of all places, what used to be a small village, really, in the north of Nordland called Dietershaven. Now, there's a reason, if you want to have a small aside, why the north of the Empire doesn't have any main ports. And that reason is Rick Priestley. He didn't like the imbalance that it brought to the map, putting important things on the top, so he didn't want any ports in the top. So he said, don't do it, which is what the Warhammer fantasy roleplay writers then had to try and explain and justify. I was one of those writers. So the Imperial Second Fleet, I created. Dietershaven and everything that's there, I built it for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition, which was then ported into 4th edition with the new fundamental fleets that were getting built for it. I also had to explain the Marienburg fleet and where it came from, the Imperial First Fleet of Altdorf and where it came from. Dietershaven is not a great castle bastion with mighty walls. It's not a trading port. It is, however, a military naval powerhouse for the Empire, because it got so much funds funneled up there that within in total 15 years, it moved from being a small, unimportant location to a big one. It's not the only one. There's a bunch of other naval positions in the north and naval ports in the north, but it's worth noting none of them match what Dietershaven becomes by the time we hit the end times. So this is just your Empire version of what everybody else has. And it's in some respects a desperate location because Marienburg fucks with their shit. Indeed, Marienburg has sacked multiple ports along the north to stop the Empire from ever doing this, which means Dietershaven was sort of done in secret to try and keep Marienburg off of it for long enough that they could build enough wolf ships and great ships up in the north that they could hold off against an external fleet.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that it's almost a secret clandestine port or like a conspiracy port. As opposed
it is, and it's supported by a lot of wizards, which is one of the reasons why it can continue to do everything that it does. It's also worth noting that it has a lot of dry docks working up there, and it does have the best shipwrights in the old world. They bought them. They just bought them. And they come from Tilia, they come from Estalia, they come from the Wasteland, they come from Kislev. They bought them and brought them there through one method or another. It's a fun location, but it's quite unlike many of the other locations you'll find. And the reason it can hold off against potential attack is because it does have an enormous number of cannon up there.
Yeah, this is a place that is being, from its onset, honestly, probably one of the best moves that Karl Franz made as an emperor.
But sadly, it isn't, because it falls completely out of his control and is run by Nordland now. Classic. He set it up, and other people now control it. His control of it is nominal. He has almost no control over the location.
Yeah, and in a well-written end times, this would have been one of the most important strategic locations of like the opening, like several years of the war.
Yeah, totally. During the Storm of Chaos, for example, which is now basically an alternate timeline, they couldn't break through. The Chaos Hordes couldn't break through in the north. They tried, and it was because of the Imperial Second Fleet. Ashlyn and the Imperial Second Fleet razed anything that came across the Sea of Claws. They completely destroyed it. So between two factions alone, they held off all of Chaos, meaning that the Archaeon had to come all the way through by land to do anything with any real power. And it's largely because of the strength that Dietershaven and the Northern fleets could project.
There you go. All right, we're going to go ahead and get the pull start for this. I think because it's
a weird one.
Many of these,
it's not
very
S.
small.
It is.
Yeah, so
I mean, in total population, you're probably only looking around about, by its peak, around about 25 to 30,000. And a lot of it's, admittedly, if you took everyone inside the Second Fleet, it would be huge. It'd be a city-sized, because many of the great ships have got populations of over 1,000, 1,200 sitting on them. They're stupid Warhammer vessels. But there's not that many great ships, and there's a lot of wolf ships, and there's a lot of ships of the line of various sizes. But the actual population of the place is not much more than about 25,000.
Getting gleeful about the earlier little Marienburg to Notre Dame instead of Rotterdam.
Yeah, well, obviously, yes.
Yeah. Federico, hello, Andy and Ryan. From which port would you be able to see the Northern Chaos Gate? None of them.
None.
It's way. There's a whole nother like practical landmass between you and where you're trying to look. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, none. In fact, you can't see it pretty much from sea at all anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you have to go deep into the Chaos Waste.
Yeah.
Cole Patterson, how Dutch-inspired actually is Marienburg?
Very. Much like the Empire is very influenced by the Holy Roman Empire, but much like most Warhammer writing, when you actually look between the lines, you realize that it is either British or, depending on the writer, American.
Yeah, and Marienburg, I'll put it this way. Reading Marienburg as an American with American English is painful. It is painful to read the names of some of the places and people, and you're like, how do those letters go together?
That's the truth.
The Marienburg Merchants Guild and the noble stadtholders smile upon the wisdom of the masses. S tier for Marienburg. The non-Marienburg elves simply hate diversity and democracy. The sun has set long ago.
Thank you,
Marienburg. So, Marienburg proudly rebuilds after the razing of Ashlyn, as it should be. Herdcore, I was making fan fiction with a hypothetical OC child of Malarian. When I was watching your Grombrindol Malarian video, it made me realize I was basically making fantasy Star Wars with Snorri being Obi-Wan. That's a very fucking cool idea, I'll say.
Oh, Marienburg's not moving.
And a glorious shield protecting Marienburg's position in S tier against any slanderous high elf haters. All right, so the Marienburg Corps has not only reestablished themselves, but they have indeed put up a bulwark. So if anyone
thanks very much for that one, Amon Knight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amon, very much. So if anyone wants to punt them down, it is now a $100.
But remember, look after yourselves before you look after us.
Yes, true. Please make wise financial decisions.
Yeah, every single time. I mean, this is obviously done for fun, but
this is just for fun.
Thank you very much.
It doesn't change anything. Korenshima, can the Empire win against Marienburg with a functional college? That's such a funny way to put that.
The colleges of magic. Holy shit.
Detail for Marienburg. Ashlyn says hello.
OMG! Ashlyn comes in burning! Burn them down!
Did we just encourage active speciesism on the stream? I feel like we accidentally did. Good God. I'm so sorry. The Dragon Fleet, the fleet of the Hyles is just too powerful. They're just too powerful.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh so much, but that made me laugh. Sorry, what was the question we were on?
Evan and I was trying to be a king of the people, and he got assassinated. Oh my good God! No, guys, please, be responsible.
Back up and go.
We have to move on.
I'm going to answer this question whether it kills me or not, and I can barely talk because I've been laughing so much. Can the Empire win Marienburg versus a functional college? Can the Empire win? If the Empire works as a unified force, it probably could, but it doesn't. The Empire is a collection of independent states, and each of these states have got their own opinions. Basically, it would be Marienburg versus Reichland, or Marienburg versus Nordland. It wouldn't be Marienburg versus the Empire, because that's not really how it works. So because of that, we end up with this weird position where it's really unlikely, unless all of the Empire bands together, it would happen, because the only way that the Emperor can summon the Electrocounts, the only way he can do that is if the Empire's at war already. It is not. Holy shit. So the chances of Marienburg declaring war on the Empire is none. Has no interest in that. It wants to trade with it. And all of the soft power that projects makes it very unlikely that Altdorf, that needs Marienburg, will do it, because they'll suddenly be cut off from all of the trade that they have. Altdorf suddenly becomes exceedingly weak because it can't feed its people. It relies on the food coming up from Marienburg and along that entire river, and it would be all cut off. Altdorf would arguably be fucked, which puts Karl Franz in a very interesting place. So could he do it? Theoretically, yes. But politically, the likelihood of it occurring is almost none. You would need a warmonger of an emperor, and he would need to somehow get everybody else to agree with him to attack the place when there's 1,000 other problems that need to be fixed first.
Yep. Schmidt, what's the donation? Luckily, YouTube does have a built-in limit system to protect our viewers from themselves. Exiled One says, no. Dear Tear for Marienburg, the mists roll in.
Except...
What the fuck? All I hear is a petty
I'm coughing myself to bits here.
Why are y'all role-playing throwing money at each other? Jesus Christ. Thank you very, 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 very much for the support. But like, god damn.
Oh, thank you all so much. But equally, bloody hell.
Yeah.
I have to bring that one up because elemental exposure, it does make me laugh. Nurgle Test here! If you ever saw our Chaos Gods ranking stream, you'll understand why that one makes me laugh a lot. Nurgle Test here. Anyway, Dieter Saving, can we pop it into place now? Because we got
all the polls and stuff came in. It was universally C.
And you know what? I think this is fair. I don't think it's a D, even though D is tempting. And the reason that I don't think it's a D is because it does have an exceedingly well-managed fleet. The Empire's Second Fleet is one of the most organized fleets in the old world, if not beyond. And it has a lot of finance behind it now because of everything that it did. And it's then taking prizes, taking other ships, converting them into Imperial flags with Imperial standards. They're doing a really, really good job, and it's effective fucking hell.
All right, just finish your statement. Just we're never going to get out of here. We're trapped.
We're going to be trapped because of Marienburg.
We're never going to escape. Oh my God.
So yes, I think C is fair, because it's not a great bastion of the North, although naval-wise, it is a great producer. And that has also, because of the number of ships that protect it, effectively like floating castles moving around in the north, has made it an exceedingly difficult place to take. As we said, Chaos couldn't do it. And that, I think, gives it definite raise from D. But it's not a trading center. It is a sink for money. It is a sink for armies. And it's a place where a lot of people go to work hard. But beyond that, not that exciting. I think C is fair.
I think I would have initially leaned towards kind of a, like, militarily, I see it as B rank because of its growing importance, but because it doesn't perform any other roles very well outside of militarily, I think that knocks it down to C very well.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've done a really good
And as we're desperately trying to move forward. Exile esteemed foe Marienburg.
We're 1 hour 40 minutes in, and we've only done 3.
I know we're gonna be late.
We're gonna have to be fast. Late. I can do Erengrad really fast.
Dono War is doomed, Yowie.
Okay, Aaron.
No! Marienburg will let you know what you can do with
You're killing Andy.
S tier with 150. What the hell? It is Yowie. Oh my god. It's
holy
Yowie.
shitballs.
It's very toxic, Yowie.
Okay, right. I'm doing Erengrad. Everyone stop for a second. Are you ready? Erengrad is...
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so much. That is amazing. So Erengrad is Kislev's port in the north. It is much smaller, and I do mean almost a tenth of the size of somewhere like Marienburg. But it is a natural port and has been a port for longer than Marienburg. Such a good natural port it is. It used to be a long, long time ago the capital of where the Ungals over in the east used to live. And Norvard, which is what it used to be called, was an ancient town settlement long before the Empire arguably existed. Some 1,500 years later, in come the Gospodars. The Gospodars kick ass, chew gum, and literally slaughter everything in their path. They take over the place, and the Gospodars are who renamed it as Erengrad. And they used it as their primary port out into the rest of the world. If you want to trade with Kislev, the easiest way to do so is to come in through Erengrad. It's a wonderfully brilliant natural port with its own little lagoon in the center, but the waters are really quite shallow to either sides of it, so you have to bridge out into the center with a variety of long piers.
It's described as like a lagoon.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's that shallow.
And I'm almost half tempted to bring up the map because I've probably got it kicking around somewhere. I did the map back for this when I wrote the Kislev book.
I want to say a quick thing.
Yes.
Just because I know XL1 might need to leave. First of all, thank you guys very much. Second of all, y'all both have thrown so much at this. If either of you wants an additional port thrown on so I could feel less bad about the amount y'all just throw, feel free to just pitch another port that we'll talk about and throw on the list if you're so inclined.
Yes, that sounds good. So Erengrad is the primary route in to Kislev. It has an Elven quarter, it has an Empire quarter, it has Norse quarters, it has Attilian quarters, Bretonnian quarters. It has its own Bretonnian chapel to the lady. Pardon?
That's a Cathay quarter as well.
Yeah, it has a Cathay quarter because that's being traded in and mostly through the northern trade routes that go out past by the Chaos Dwarves. It's a cosmopolitan city that is, unlike many parts of Erengrad, quite forward-thinking because of this. It's where the Streltsy, the great halberd-bearing shooty guys of the Kislev army, were founded, based, and work from. It's where they first popped up. It's got a great, huge ice palace called Frostholm, where a group of northern ice witches, who are sort of in competition with those back in Kislev City itself, hold court, including some very important older ice witches who work from there. It's also got a lot of hags from the hag witch side, over in the Ungol side, including the sea hag who lives down in the great port waters.
Hag, yeah.
And she's terrifying, ancient, and awful. So she's also there. It's, cut a long story short, a city on hills. The nobles live at the top. The poor quarters are down at the bottom, with lots of people across the world. And much like most of the cities we've discussed here, they have quarters for people from across the world. It is Kislev's port.
Yeah, I would also add that one of the things that's fairly unique about this is that they're very... We'll deal with that in a second. Thank you.
Randy's funeral.
Yeah, I'm just going to read it now.
You've killed me.
Shout out, Gary, and another stipend from the Marienburg Merchants Guild for Andy's funeral. Yes, we are going to be putting him in a coffin immediately following the screen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy Pride Month to our Ashland Marienburg fight over there. One of the things that's very, very fun for Erengrad is that it's so close to Norska. It's like it's the furthest north major port that you're going to find. And they have a very, honestly, amicable, in the grand scheme of things, relationship with many Norskins. Of that, there's large amounts of Norskins that are constantly coming there to trade. All of those southern tribes. So they have all sorts of functionally exotic materials that would be much more difficult to find in other places of the world, and things that might be considered a little... this is kind of one of those places where we spoke about earlier, where it's such a fun setting for a roleplay group that's about to embark on strange journeys or meeting where the quote-unquote civilized world butts up against something that is... the types of people that do what they must do in order to survive, but they're not evil. It has a very unique culture, Erengrad does, especially because it's suffered in its own way. And, it was interestingly sacked, but not razed by the chaos hordes that followed Azavar Kul. It did suffer some notable losses, but the city ultimately did stand.
Yeah. Erengrad also, if we go for the Storm of Chaos and what happened during the various Chaos
tragic.
invasions,
Super tragic.
It gets pretty badly hit, but not so much that it doesn't almost instantly get itself back up because of the way that first, the Great Temple of Manan there's a boat. So many people just floated out into the middle of the water as the Chaos Horde came through. And you've got to remember, in the Storm of Chaos and the first Chaos invasions inside the End Times, they were going for speed, and they burst through the place, meaning that the walls were taken down, they sacked it, but they moved on very swiftly, meaning that many withdrew and came back in and reasserted it. Unlike Prague, which was turned into a chaos hellhole again, that didn't happen in Erengrad, and within a year, the place was mostly rebuilt. So fast was much of this rebuilding that it caused some problems. The Great Palace, for example, has butted up against it, another building where it used to be a big open square, because there was significant antipathy against the nobles. So they built a building right in front of their gates into the main palace. Okay, so the very old family that used to rule from there, the Yevchenkos, were suddenly found in a rather difficult place where they couldn't even take a coach out of their own palace because it just hit straight into another building that had been built during the rebuildings. The actual rebuilt version of Marienburg, which is the one that you'll find if you go online and find the map, not Marienburg, for Erengrad, if you go online and find the map for Erengrad, is the rebuilt version. So all the piers look like they've been made of wood and they're constructed in a bit of a mess. That's because the whole place has just been rebuilt and there's a lot of refugees sitting on the outside.
Yeah, another thing that's interesting is that Total War has continued to evolve Erengrad. Erengrad's lore hasn't caught up with the new Kislev. And one of the things that Total War actually talks about and teaches us about the new version of Erengrad that I like a lot is that Erengrad has become a city of industry for Kislev. All of the massive amount of guns that became... like the Strotzi, all of those like chariots and like all of the little groms, these massive cannons, all of this the great industrial age that Kislev is hitting or has hit, we learned with Tsar Alexei, which seems where the old world's going to go with it. But the great industrial revolution of Kislev seems to kick off from Erengrad.
Yeah, it always did. You'll find that on the map that I did ages ago, there's a big, huge forge spilling smoke out down in the south of the city, because it is exactly that. It's the industrial heart, if you can claim such a thing for Kislev. But that's a little bit like saying, I don't know, it's the Care Bear Center as well, in that there's not that much in the greater scheme of things, but I'm sure that there's quite a few bears that the Kislevites care for inside Erengrad. But you wouldn't exactly say there's a lot in comparison to Null or say Schmiedorf and Middenheim. This is hardly the biggest industrial center of the world, but it's still, in comparison to the rest of Kislev, is an industrial heartland.
Yeah, so I'm thinking ABCD.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start the poll on YouTube. So that is live now. Please do get your votes in. We really appreciate y'all's participation. It's what makes the stream function, at least until two wealthy people start slapping each other in the back. But we really, really appreciate y'all hanging out with us and chatting and everything. I'm really enjoying the conversations I'm seeing in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Herd Corval, what would the high elves and dwarfs think if I commissioned them to make a magic sword that doesn't really harm, but each cut makes your junk smaller? As long as you paid them enough, they'd do it, but they probably think you're really fucking weird. Which, to be fair, you kind of are.
That's a choice.
I mean, sure. I suppose it's magic. To be fair, if you advertise what the sword did, I think there's many people that would refuse to fight you. So it would be a very good psychological weapon, I suppose. Gnivel, I don't have 50 euros to spare. I just wanted to be involved. Well, thank you for being involved.
Thank you for being involved. Super appreciated. And every single comment, whether it's just a little one or a big one, is very, very welcome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Even just reading the casual chat in the chat is
what I've been doing.
Fun.
Yeah.
Korenshima, the meme of Batman and Iron Man throwing money at each other while Spidey, Lorebeards, tries to collect them. Fits this situation. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Getting gleeful. Can we average out Marienburg at a B tier? We can't, because he locked in. There's like a $200 shield on that fucking thing.
There is.
Ain't nobody touching that. Druzina Quishian, Erengrad to K tier for Kvas or V for vodka. That does sound like what the Kislevites would be shouting from the back of the room. Loreful Neutral, super off topic, but I just watched your Vampire Lord stream and couldn't believe you ended up making a Warhammer Alex Mercer from Prototype. Love you guys. Well, thank you very much. That was a fun stream.
Prototype. That's a thing I've not played for a while. Anyway, yeah. And there's the Erengrad map. If you want to see it, you see the big industrial center down at the bottom with the compound, where all the cannons are made in the Cannoneers compound. It gives you an opportunity to get an idea of what the entire city looks like. It's pretty small in comparison to some other places, though.
Survivor. Everyone said it was daft to make a port city in the swamp, but I did it anyway, just to show them. It sank in the swamp. So I built another one. That sank into the swamp. But I built a third. That was burned down by Ashland. Fell over, then sank in the swamp. But the fourth stood up. Marius the Finwolf, probably. Yeah, I would say that's fairly accurate. Parmesia. Does Kislev pray to any sea deity apart from Manon? As far as I'm aware, none of the four major Kislevite deities. It's worth noting that Solyak is probably... There's the three big boys, and then there's a group of lesser ones that are around them. Solyak seems to be technically among the lessers, debatably.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Oh my God, Exile One, thank you so much for gifting 20 memberships. Holy shit.
Thank you so much. That's enormously appreciated.
Shiny green names. Thank you very, very much. That's super generous. Y'all be sure to thank him if you got a free membership from him. That's very kind. So I will say I am not aware of one. Doesn't mean they don't exist, first of all. Second of all, there are entities there that are, while they're not gods, are incredibly powerful and are heavily associated with the sea. The sea witch, the sea hag, being probably the most formidable and notable.
Yeah, the answer to this is no. And if you go with Games Workshop's current direction for Kislev, it's a hard no. because as is often the case with the old world, they simplify the stuff that came over from Total War and the roleplay game. So as it currently stands, Salyak is given extreme prominence, and previously she wasn't given much prominence at all.
Yeah.
Where the god Tor, who was one of the most important gods in Kislev, is now basically not mentioned, to the point of he doesn't exist. So the answer to this is, yeah, probably not. But if I were rewriting it again, I would almost certainly, at the very least, make nods to various spirits. The spiritual aspect of Marienburg. The spiritual aspect of Kislev should always be supported. They do, however, worship Manan. I mean, on that map, I believe there's a ship. It's location number 1, the Temple of Manan. You can see it as a ship looking in the middle of that very map that you can see on screen right now. Am I showing this? No, I'm not showing this. I'm just showing a map. So it's sitting in the center, just off center to the left. So you can see that one there. And it's a big ship seen from above. So they do have a god of the seas. It's Manan, obviously. And do they have their own name for him? Probably.
Yeah, I would say if you want to make it Kislev flavored, it'd be much more fun to explore what are the entities the hags of that area have pacts with, and have there be terrifying sea spirits.
Yeah, I think that works really rather well.
All right, and the polls are finished, and we have an agreed upon for Twitch and YouTube. Y'all have actually been agreed on every single one so far. It's a B tier, though A was very close.
So B tier. So sitting alongside Longueuil, we have Erengrad. Which one's most important or impressive between those two? For me, it's pretty easy, but you might disagree.
In my opinion, it's Erengrad by a mile.
By my opinion, it's Longueuil by a mile.
Interesting.
Erengrad has no fleet. It has no fleet. It's got some local industry. It's got some interesting bits, but Longueuil has all of that plus a fleet. Longueuil's richer. Erengrad is the primary route into Kislev, which gives it a lot of stuff.
As a port, because
Erengrad's more famous.
Yeah, and Erengrad, they do a lot of the same things, but Longueuil, I think, just does it on a more efficient scale. And the high elf involvement, I think, is. Yeah,
there's more high elves in Longueuil than there is in Erengrad. Erengrad has its own high elf district as well. It's worth noting. But it's not that huge, as I recall. It's very close to the river. In fact, I'm looking at the map now because I remember drawing it. There it is right there. And I could actually tell you that's not more than approximately 150, 200 high elves. Compare that to Longueuil, which will have an easy population of about 2,000-3,000.
Yeah, I agree after discussion, though. I do think they're.
Erengrad is more iconic.
Yes, it is much more iconic.
Yeah, much more iconic. But yeah.
All right, cool. And we got it there. That takes us to Karan Kar.
Karan Kar! We finally got there. Do you want to jump on Karan Kar?
Yes. So Karan Kar. The Tower of Despair. So Karan Kar, as you approach from most likely the east, and you are approaching the great continent of Nagaroth, you go up and up and up until you reach basically the equivalent of the Great Lakes, if your goal is to arrive in the Great Dark Elf Empire. And most of the year, at least for a good half the year, you can't, because there's great ice sheets that block your path. But as spring starts to come, the ice sheets melt, you would be making your way in, likely a captive on one of many, many hundreds of ships, and full-on black arcs sailing their way through the strait and into the great slave port of Karan Kar. And as you approach, it's this horrific, massive, towering black edifice of stone. A great black arc, or set of black arcs, more likely, that grounded themselves against the land and then formed and grew out more and more and more over time. And it has become a massive titanic center of trade, the rearing of colossal beasts. There are great farms and other locations because the slaves are sent out to do all sorts of various tasks around Karankar, and it's the largest market you'll find in the entirety of the continent of Nagaroth. Or frankly, on this side of the planet, if you're looking at it as the Western Hemisphere. The Karankar is a terrifying place. As you approach, literally one of the first things you'll see, which really think about this, is as you see the frosty ice cold waves crashing up against the shore, as the tide pulls back, you would notice something as someone looking for the ships towards the great port of Karankar, which is that you would see what looks like people down on the ground where the like essentially like the stone of the beach is, that the waves are crashing over. You see people that are trapped down there, but as you get close, you realize they're not people, they're statues. The Dark Elves have created this great break wave. So the structure they use to prevent the waves from coming over and causing damage are beautifully crafted into the form of great lines of slaves screaming in agony as they are eternally drowned by freezing cold waves, but they're just statues. And you may go, oh, well, thank God they're just statues. And I go, haha, until you get a little closer, and then you start to hear the actual screaming, because all of the walls surrounding the city of Karankar, especially out facing the sea, and the tower itself are covered in actual people who are hanging from the walls screaming, and the walls have been enchanted so those people never die. They're trapped between life and death, screaming in agony for eternity. Welcome to Karankar. Oh, Andy, you're muted.
Let's try that again. Karankar, Slaver's Gate. If I was to sum this place up, it sucks.
It's hell. Yeah.
It's an interesting location because this, unlike any of our previous locations, is a mono faction pretty much. This is just the Dark Elves. This isn't loads of people trading and doing cool shit with them. Sure, occasional very brave individuals might try and approach Karankar, but you'd have to be a bleeding idiot because you are not going to get on well with what's here. This is where all the Dark Elf slave raids come from and return to. And they go across the world, they ravage, and they return. The place itself is the great slave market for all Nagaroth. If you want slaves, this is where you buy them and ship them back. Obviously, there's other places where raids might go across land, for example, but the vast majority of Nagaroth's economy, the Dark Elf economy, is centered around this terrifyingly awful location, which is really big. Because there's a lot of Dark Elves that come from here, and in the winter months when the ice has come down, most of them are wintering here by their tens of thousands. Entire Black Arcs leave from this port to wander around the world before returning again, holds filled with hundreds of thousands, if you add it up, of slaves that they've taken from elsewhere. This place is big. Really big, and it's constantly expanding. This place is horrific. It's not just the walls that have got screaming, tortured slave sounds because of the half living, half dead. It's all of the streets. The place is constantly haunted because of all of the slaves that have died here and never been allowed to properly die. You want to know where necromancy comes from? It's not Nagash. It's here.
These are actually some of the oldest necromancers in the world.
Indeed. And these are the peoples who taught Nagash how to do his shit. This is the original source of necromancy. Dark magic of the worst kind. And they have been working on tortured souls for uncounted, well, it's not uncounted, it's about approximately 5,000 years, but it's a long, long time. 6,000 years. Pretty much since the Cataclysm, if we're discussing all of the sources that came originally from Ulthuan and landed here approximately 5,000 years ago. If you want to think of one of the most important sites in the world for naval projection, this is it. This isn't where the ships are built. This is where they come from. And they are, almost without compare, the kings of the high seas. There is only one other group that comes close, at least to this part of the world, with their naval might, and that's the High Elves. When we go to the other side of the world, we'll have a different conversation, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And they all come from here. This is what the High Elves have to try and stop, and they can't.
Yeah, this is also one of the most exotic markets in the world because it trades in literally everything.
There is no law that stops you trading.
Comes here because the Dark Elves go out to everywhere else in the world and they bring back all their goodies. So not only, of course, are you dealing with slaves, but you're dealing with monsters, meats, spices, furs, like everything you could possibly think of. Is brought back to this place.
Banks of harpies, because there's tons of harpy nests up here too, because this is where everyone basically refuels. Say, for example, you are a Dark Elf Corsair, you come into Karankar, you get everything you need, and you leave. Because it's a center for all of their trade. It's a center for food. It's a center for monsters. It's a center for dragons. It's a center for everything. You want it, Karankar has it. It's a brilliant place if you're a Dark Elf, but if you're not, it's the worst place in the world. It's horrendous.
Yeah, they host the greatest competition of Beastmasters in arguably the world, but especially this side of the world, to the point that Clark-Haran, who we'll talk about a little later, even though they're kind of considered the Beast City, they travel to here for the big monster extravaganza fight every year.
That's because all the trade goes on here. It's where you will sell your beasts. And I mean, of course, you can go buy one from the Beast City if you want, but why would you go there when you've got the center of all Dark Elf trade here?
Yeah, and militarily, something really funny to think about is that good old Eltharion the Grim, who's launched one of the only successful raids against Nagaroth in the history of the Warhammer world, he didn't go after Karankar. He went after Nagaron because it was an easier target.
Yeah, and it's worth noting. Yeah, it's worth noting that this city is arguably one of the most defensible in the world in a way that you just don't expect because of the enormous quantity of individuals that work through here. It's probably bigger than Nagaron, although Nagaron will almost certainly always be described as bigger because they always want to make Malekith/Malarian look like he's the dog's bollocks. But in terms of its itinerant population, it's almost certainly significantly bigger than Nagaron. Nagaron is a huge Dark Elf city, center of politics, and the center of all idea and projection. This is the center of the military might of the Dark Elves. And yeah, sure, huge numbers of the people who would call this place home are at sea doing stuff elsewhere, but they mostly come home for the winter months. Often come home for the they come home for the trading months. When they come home for the trading months, the place just explodes in population.
Yeah, and rather amusingly, it's still described during the winter.
Much bigger than Marienburg. Marienburg looks small by comparison.
Yeah, and Marienburg, you have to remember, because of the geography surrounding Marienburg, it's really difficult for Marienburg to expand because the swamps are so harsh.
Now, earlier when I was talking about Marienburg might not look like the biggest city when we start discussing some other places, this is the first of them. This is bigger than Marienburg by not a small amount either. Marienburg's entire population is smaller than just the slave population of the Dark Elves. Just the slaves. There are more than 1 million slaves passing through here at any one time. Much more. This place is big.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. I remember. I had to double check it, but yeah, the Nairavor, or the Great Lament, is the name of the breakwater. That great line of agonized statues that breaks the ocean waves. But yeah,
Lament.
This is
Lament.
Yeah. Sorry. What did I say?
Lament.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, there you go.
Lament.
But so there was tons and tons, lots of wealth here, strong, an incredible amount of military might. There's also little fun things here where you have like, this is the place where the tower is guarded by a group of ogre man-eaters. There's like a notable ogre contingent that's here because they were taking the slaves, and the Karankar guys were like, we got jobs for these guys. They deal with sending out a lot of the slaves to the quarries of the Black Spine Mountains, and also down further south to the various like farmlands. It is a busy place. How does the old world deal with millions being abducted?
Yeah, I'm doing that one too. Hey, it's brave of you to think they only raid from the old world. The Chaos Wastes, they raid from there.
Yeah, Cathay,
they raid from there. Nippon, they raid from there. They raid from everywhere. They'll go off and they'll come back, and their ships are surprisingly swift. Nowhere near as swift as the High Elves, but surprisingly swift.
The Dark Elves often prefer to rely on lightning raids. Where they run in, grab, get out before anyone even knows they're there. And so how do you deal with it? You hope that they don't hit you, or that you like build up defenses, but the Dark Elves are frankly going to be powerful enough to break those defenses. So how do you deal with it? A lot of places just don't, or just hope it's not going to happen to them.
I'm just bringing up this one as well. For me, they also raid the seas for monsters. Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Entire households, so the noble households of the Dark Elves, entire households are focused on just taking sea dragons, big sea creatures, and bringing them underneath control. Anyway, we should get
remember
vote up on this one.
Rakarth the Beastmaster is from this city.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so what tier is Karundkar?
And everyone expects someone like Rakarth to come from Clark-Arond, but yes, definitely not. Yeah, this place is huge. Having said that, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that you think it should be S. You might look at it and say, yeah, but it's only Dark Elves that trade here. I mean, it is pretty much just the Dark Elves who run through here. It's horrible. That might be enough for you to say, I don't want to make it S tier.
Total War did get official approval from GW that the Chaos Dwarf convoys, you can send a convoy to Karundkar now.
There. Yeah, that's
Chaos
fun.
Dwarfs right there now, which is cool.
And Chaos Dwarves almost certainly do. Anyone who is a bad guy, for want of a better description, could arguably trade through here. Hell, you'll probably find there's some very foolish Empire traders and Old World traders who try this, because the amount of money you can make for taking this run is huge. But what's going to stop you from being taken completely as slaves? That's a question that you'd have to balance.
Yeah, there would be many a story of Empire, Chaos, Marienburg, Sartosans, of people attempting, because if they could just secure some kind of bargain or deal. The
big mistake that many people think with Dark Elves is that you can't work with them. Oh, you can. They are the most charismatic of all the elf types. They are the most willing to go with their enemies if they can make an advantage. And if there's an advantage to be secured, Dark Elves will pursue it. So there is definitely a potential here, but let's be honest, it's not big. In most cases, the Dark Elves will betray you and take you. So you've got to be exceedingly brave or stupid to even attempt it. It is not a nice place.
This one is kind of all over the place. So please do get your votes in. Please. Okay, let me get caught up on super chats here. Walking Tree, can we talk a bit about Lizardman fleets as ports? Yep, I can do that right now. They don't exist. The Lizardmen do not have ports. They do not go out in the ocean. Every time the Lizardmen have ever tried to cross, or ever desired to cross the ocean, which they have multiple times, every time in the lore, they do one of the following things. Either the Slann summon a magical bridge and they walk across the ocean, or the Slann says, it's a little too far for a walk, and they open up a portal, and the Lizardmen walk through the portal and just pop out wherever they need to be. They don't give a fuck about the ocean.
Apparently we missed a super chat. Hawks brought it up for us.
Oh, thank you. But the long answer, or the short answer, is there isn't one. The closest. Okay, great. I'll do that while Andy's running.
Go wild.
The closest thing you have to a Lizardman fleet or anything is that there are notes about the Lizardmen do ply the rivers. So, like, remember Amazon, Amazon is technically what it should be pronounced as. But the various rivers of the old world do have Lizardman groups that patrol them, and some of them do so on the backs of gigantic, big old dinosaurs. So there's notes about there being like these giant turtle-like monsters that they've built structures on the back of and they ride around on. Or there are notes about that some Lizardmen have successfully tamed Pleiodons, which are more like big alligator dinosaur type monsters with like fish fins. but the lizardmen have incredibly rare, essentially non-existent naval presence because they just don't need it. It's just something they don't bother with.
Again. And he's back.
Which is hilarious because they're aquatic. All right, so the Mist Super Chat from Gideon for viewers. If you think the Empire building that has earlier talking about Dieter's Haven, if you think the Empire building that many ships in 10 years is unrealistic, during the First Punic War, the Roman Republic built a huge fleet of hundreds of ships almost from scratch.
Yeah, it's true. I did a lot of research for DT7 how it could work, and it's all built on 17th, 18th century building techniques and practices, so all very doable, particularly given that they were also taking prizes from other places and converting them, so all the numbers made sense.
Yep. Okay, Gideon, thank you. We did get it. Apologies that we missed that, but thank you, we got it. All right, and that is time, and pretty overwhelmingly, I'm a little surprised at how strong it was.
Oh, wow.
We have S tier for Karan Kar.
So in terms of the great ports of the world, do I think it's S tier? Yes.
I agree. This is weird because I feel like Marienburg, because of its broader reach, I think is higher. But Karan Kar could definitely kick the shit out of Marienburg, but I don't think that's.
Yeah, we eat it for breakfast of it, but because it's so many different noble households, all of which have got their own plans and their own ways of doing. They're elves. They're off doing their own stupid elven bullshit, and they don't really band together very well because they're dark elves. So yeah, they're never going to be that focused, but they are particularly overwhelmingly S.
Yeah, I mean, the Dark Elves are one of the greatest naval powers in the world.
They are. So on the naval might and the what you can get their side, I suppose the mercantile side, it's definite S. But as an overall location, I think, I think it's an easy S tier.
Slavery is cringe. Karan Kar to D tier. The man's pulling out the moralist argument.
Yeah, it's fair.
Very well.
I mean, slavery's not just cringe; it's awful. Even though it was, in terms of our own history, it was the default for thousands of years. Most religions have slavery as a core component of them, hard baked into them, and how they are worked. Most historical religions, which causes to this day problems when people read the Bible and they find all the rules for slavery and they go, what?
I'm a knight. Yeah, I agree. He's like, now, who's going to try and counter him when he put it that way?
Yep, it's going to be a hard ask.
He's like, are you going to be the one to tell me I'm wrong? So Karan Kar has been shunted down to D tier, which frankly, it deserves. Let's be honest. It's a horrible place.
Yeah, it's a horrible place. By comparison, though, Laverne is also a horrible place, as you're about to learn, but for very different reasons. True. Laverne is the great, and there is no other word that better encapsulates it, the great high elf port at the south of Ulthuan. It is the center of high elf projection of both soft and hard power. It is not the only projection of their fleets, but it's the largest. And Laverne as a city is quite simply extraordinary. It's in a natural port at the bottom of the great donut that is Ulthuan. And it provides the access to the inner kingdoms if you can get through all three of its gates. And no one is allowed through the last of the three gates unless they happen to be a high elf. It is enormously defensible. It has an entire set of straits that lead into it that without pilots, your ship will probably sink. And on either sides, there are just banks of weapons pointing downwards towards anyone who's foolish enough to potentially try and attack Laverne from sea, which has happened more than once, it's worth noting. Laverne itself, on the inside, is round a great lagoon. And in this great lagoon, trading houses from across the world gather. In ages past, only high elves were allowed here. But that changed when Finubar, the current Phoenix King, took over and said, hey, the future of the high elves is being at the center of the world. We can no longer act the way we did. And the High Elves, where they used to rule the high seas and war with the Dark Elves to stop them getting slaves across, then said anyone can go onto the high seas if they pay tolls, if they do stuff, and it all ultimately goes back to Lothern. From Lothern, we get to arguably the best fleet in the world. Arguably the best. It's the fastest, it's got the best magic users on it, and it is, I mean, ridiculous in terms of what it's capable of doing. It outsails the Dark Elves, but the Dark Elves have got higher punch power. Their ships, their dragon ships, are capable of going through a black arc. They're that ridiculous with their great blades at the front when they go into them. They are a bit daft.
Yeah, which is such a cool way to take out a black arc.
It totally is.
Awesome.
The city itself is nowadays inside its main lagoon as populated with dwarfs, believe it or not, mostly imperial dwarfs, but dwarfs, elves, ogres, people from across the world, and there's entire quarters inside Lothern for the different peoples that they trade with. The Cathaeans, the Nipponese, the Wastelanders, the Tillians, the Estalians, all of them can be found in Lothern. And they are happily walking around. The main city of Lothern now appears like a cosmopolitan city, taking in traits from different building styles and architectural details from across the world, including a whole host of human-style buildings that have been built by them. It is cosmopolitan in a way that, for example, Marienburg isn't. Marienburg, pretty much everyone who lives there lives inside Marienburger buildings, except for the elves who just refuse. If we go to Lothern, there's pockets of lots of different types of peoples, and their own merchant houses are all founded here. The Phoenix King himself rules from here. There are Phoenix Guard here. There's a standing force of over 10,000 Lothern Sea Guard, and it's not the total of the High Elf army. That doesn't include any of its standard army stuff. There's a standing army in total of over 50,000. It's stupendously big in terms of just the armies that can go. Then we go to the fleets that come from here, and 50,000 begins to look small when you look at the admirals and what Ashlyn can do as he spreads across the world from here. The great shining host of Tyrion is genuinely grounded mostly here, that spreads out, even though he tends to hang around Avalon quite a lot for, let's say, undisclosed reasons. Begin with the Queen. It is the center of the world of the High Elves. And unlike the Dark Elves, they have welcomed in everybody. Everyone who obeys the rules, everyone who's willing to trade, everyone who's not a dickhead orc can come here and do their thing. And it has become the great central point between East and West, or depending on how you look at it on either side of the islands, but also the world as a whole. It is arguably the most important port in the world. Now, we have to try and counteract this with some reasons not to immediately just go, oh, fuck, it's got to be an S, doesn't it? And this is where it gets hard. They do have chattels. They do have slaves. And if slavery bugs you, their indentured servants are effectively slaves. And they have human a slave culture. Especially. Human slaves in particular. Now, do those slaves have the same issues that the Dark Elf ones have? No! They're generally treated like pets. They're looked after. If you've got a pet, you wouldn't think of your pet as a slave, but it sort of is.
It's that kind of place where if you were to go there and be like, oh my God, you're a slave, some of the people that you'd be talking to go, how dare you say that about me? It's complicated. It's a complicated place.
It is. But they don't generally use the term slavery for their indentured servitude. But if we're cutting the language out, they're slaves. And that's one reason you could argue that this isn't But Marienburg sells slaves as well. It's illegal there, but they do it. There's also Marienburg, you can buy anything, so it's a weak argument. This is one of the big ports of the Warhammer world. You must be able to bring up something, also, Ryan, that gives you a nice counterpoint.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Lothern, in many ways, now, whether or not you see this as a downside is we'll see. Lothern can also be described in many ways as one of the most somber and depressing places in the world because it's it is colossal because it was built for the elves, all elves, not just high elves, just elves at their peak. And yet they have fallen very far. Lothern, many parts of it are empty. Like they're
empty. Now they're filled back up with they've been
filled in, but it's like it's a place where
Finubar changed it.
Yeah, it's a place where if you go in, it's not filled with elves. It's filled with lots of other peoples, which you may see as a positive, but it can also be interpreted as a negative of that it for the high elves themselves, or just elves that visit it, it's a place of complicated feelings because in many ways it represents their decline in the world.
It absolutely does. The elves are outnumbered, and this is easy to forget, but they're outnumbered in their own capital city. If we go to Marienburg, it's mostly humans. Mostly. Yep. You go everywhere, it's humans. If we go to Lothern, it's like 50, maybe a bit less, maybe like 40% humans, about 40% elves, and about 20% everybody else. It's a proper melting pot of a city.
10%? Oh, no, that's
40 and 40 plus 20.
I'm bad at that. Carry on.
I can do my maths, especially when the numbers are that simple.
All right.
So it is a proper melting pot, unlike many other of the great cities of the Warhammer world. Marienburg, for example, is mostly humans with a large elven contingent, a bunch of dwarves and halflings kicking around at the edges, where what is ostensibly an elven city, it's actually outnumbered by other species.
Yeah. And now, I'm not going to lie, and I'll be very, very honest. Lothern is probably very easily to be argued one of the most beautiful ports in the entire world.
That's the truth.
It is an incredibly beautiful place. It's got the glittering lighthouse, which is like this great edifice, almost seemingly. That's very true for the Dark Elves. It's this great towering edifice, seemingly almost made of enchanted glass that's got thousands of little lights all over it that does these really, it's not like a traditional lighthouse where there's one light at the top. It's this great shining tower that's got lights going out in all directions. It's practically like it is such a ridiculously hilarious over the top fortress because it protects the very vulnerable inner sea. It has been successfully sieged a number of times. It's been blockaded a few times. No one's ever really managed to do anything much to it.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. I mean, in some descriptions of it, it's described as having some pretty weak defenses if anyone were to attack over land. Most of its defenses are set up to protect against sea invasion. But there's a reason for that. That's because pretty much what all of the attacks on Lothern are going to be. So, yeah, it's a difficult place.
Yeah, it's but you know, it's the great capital of the kingdom, has been since the time of Kaldor the Conqueror.
I want to bring up this one as well. Of course, humans can have diversity. I was talking about diversity of species, not diversity of culture.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, like it's a nice place. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And I do agree that in some of its descriptions, it's a somewhat sad place. I think that is a good way of developing. I think Bill King's work very much focuses on how it's a place that's
melancholy.
Yeah, that's past its peak, and he's pulled a little bit more on the Michael Moorcock-esque version of it because he's drawn heavily on Imrayr, which is the dreaming city inside Elric and Milnebunny, which is the inspiration for Lothern and much of how it works. And it's also one that's long past its peak. So there's a bit of that. And yeah, you can make it a bit of a sad place.
Yeah, it's like that's a weak criticism to throw.
There's got to be something else we can say is negative, because some places are just written as the biggest and the bestest by the writers, and yeah, Lothern is sort of there for this one. It's a tough one.
It has a lot of advantages. I mean, Andy said it best of it's quite literally in the center of the world. Like if you look at all the oceans, it's right in the fucking middle.
And it catches world trade.
Yeah, like if you want to go basically anywhere, unless you have really stocked up, you're probably going to have to stop by Lothern.
No, we're going to need to speed up looking at the time.
Yeah, well, we're going. So the polls up. Grab some super chats here real fast. Ricky Chapman, we remember in our Chaos campaign, we attempted to assault it, only for our assault to be ambushed by vampire pirates. The people of Arengrat just watched the show as our fleet was wrecked. Bummer.
Nice. Love it, Ricky.
Stephen Lucas, back to Plague Undivided Fleets, had an idea that some of the Chaos best ships are actually relics from pre-cataclysm civilizations, many nameless kingdoms, ruins across the old world, waste, but no names. That's a very fun idea.
Love that one, Stephen. That's pretty cool.
Watchdog 3079, and also this is where the merch/money is. I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, for that is either Aaron Grad or Karan Carr, but both yes. Syntax error. Karan Carr tour guys be like, and this is the wall of screaming corpses.
That's exactly what they're like.
That's exactly what they do.
Yep.
Necroflare, cool, I have done this, but thank you very much. Add Sartosa. We'll do a vote for it, but I have added it to the list. While not a major power in the whole world, the classic human pirates deserve their due. They do.
They do.
Amusingly enough, of almost, not quite, but almost all the ports on this list, it has some of the most written history, funny enough. Because they got like a whole dedicated section in the Dogs of War book.
Yeah, they did.
Carrie Junk, going to Lothern in your bellhop is a Bretonian peasant who's had his passport taken away.
You know, yeah.
Honestly, yeah, probably.
Horrendous, but yeah.
That's very funny. And then Hurt Corio, being an indentured servant, a Tommy Mommy High Elf noblewoman is a con?
You know, it's something that because we're moving on to in Lawhammer past to the old ones, and the second set of that, which is called The Great Vortex. It's the second book of our second campaign. And yeah, we're going to be in Ulthuan, and yeah, it's a con.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those as this isn't a great, this is I think a reasonable kind of comparison example of it. Kind of reminds me of, I know when I catch my parents watching like but like shows about older times in Europe, where you have like either it's like the British shows with like the butlers and all this stuff, and like the indentured servants that like lived in the houses, or other parts of Europe slightly further back. But it's weird watching it because you see these people that have like this intense pride about essentially being slaves from like any other point of view. And it's like, man, that's a very complicated thing. And that's kind of what the situation in Lothern is a lot like. It would be a complicated place for human morality to deal with. For elven morality, it would be super simple, but for human morality, it's like, oh man, there's some like weird discussions going on here.
Yeah, there is.
All right, Hawk, have we got results?
It's looking pretty clear over in YouTube, it's fair to say.
I think we can go ahead and end it. And Hawk, let's go ahead and cut them down to 2-minute polls, just due to time.
Yeah, because time is getting tight, and we've got some that I really want to do.
Yeah. All right, Lothern, straight up to S tier, and it's definitely bigger than Maryburg, in my opinion.
Lothern is easily bigger than Marienburg. It's got everything that Marienburg has plus more. Marienburg, I mean, when it comes to elven population, total population, Lothern might, no, it's got a standing army of like 100. It's ridiculous. No, Lothern, I think, is easily there.
Yeah, it's top dog, frankly. It really is. It is a top dog.
It is. If you think of the great ports of the Warhammer world, Lothern is always marked as being one of the most important ones, at the heart of one of the biggest fleets that the entirety of the Warhammer world has to offer.
Yeah. All right. We're moving on to the Awakening, which is most accurately described as New Beckhofen. So down in the Vampire Coast, there's a strange haunted port that you can visit. It's not super large. And it's very, very recent, only having been actually detailed in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition's new book for Lustria, where it received a pretty significant section. And it's basically that you travel to Lustria, and you could go to the normal, very small, drab settlements further north, or you could go to the quote-unquote civilized land that you've heard rumors about on the eastern shore, which is easier to reach, allegedly. And as you make your way over to the eastern coast to a place called the Vampire Coast, but I'm sure it's nothing to be worried about, you will pass through various haunted environs, trying to get past the absolute terror. There's like some nasty sirens, which are sirens essentially, like the brine wife who's haunts a nearby cape. But if you can make your way past strange pirates and other horrors, you can eventually arrive in the port of New Beckhoffen. And this quote-unquote capital or heart of the Vampire Coast is ruled over from a nearby castle by the infamous Grand Archcommodore Luther Harkin, the king of the pirates. And
self-styled.
Self-styled. It's a strange land. New Beckhoffen is basically the half-remembered, decaying idea of what an Empire port should be like. A port from the Empire. It has a lot of imperial structures built up by workers that you don't tend to see during the day for some reason. And it has a lot in common with the stone and brick and stone towns of Sylvania. Very, very similar themes. It is a place where the truly desperate go, and it is said to be a place where if you are trying to sell things that cannot be sold or buy things that cannot be bought, it is a place where you can find those things. But it is also a place ruled over by vampires, the night aristocracy, and there is a full-on undead host that lurks just around it. Luther Harkin does keep up appearances very loosely within the town or the port itself, so that the living can successfully visit, trade, and leave. But the odds of you making out unmolested by ghouls or horrible vampire bats, or when you get out into the ocean proper, being attacked by the vampire pirates themselves, is very, very small. It is a place that only the poor and the desperate go to, because anyone else would realize that this is a bad deal. It is a dark, terrible place that Luther Harkin, who is insane, completely and utterly insane, believes that he could build into the great new trade capital of the West.
But pirate trade capital.
Yeah, but pirate. Well, he thinks he can make it Marienburg.
Yeah, he's a madman. Yeah, we can cut this down pretty easily, as this is Vampire Coast primary port, as we're going to self-style it. And it is a place of the undead meets the dodgy folk of the old world. And by dodgy folk, I mean anyone who is willing to trade will be accepted here, but it's likely you won't survive. It is a place of pirates and undead pirates at that. It is not a great trade center or hub, but it is somewhere where the Vampire Coasts project what little power they have outwards. It is a constant thorn in the side of the Lizardmen, and is also at points a thorn in the side of the Skaven that make their home over in Lustria. Other than that, I think that's almost enough for us to get a good idea, but we don't have a great number of cool things that it has that are worth discussing. It's not known for having a great number of cool trading or cool army stuff that make it entirely unique. It's the Vampire Coast, and you know the Vampire Coast, it's their central trading hub.
Yeah, it is. It's essentially a place that has notable trade. It has a lot of curious individuals that haunt its environs. It does have buildings. Like it is a full-on like town, like place you can visit. Even though a lot of like the materials they're using to build it have been stolen from nearby sites of the Lizardmen, which could cause who knows what kinds of problems. There are peasants that live there, and it's surrounded by a horrible mangrove swamp. That is
what a place to visit.
Yeah, known as the Blood Swamps for who knows what reasons.
Yeah, and our votes are now up, by the way, so if you want to go vote, vote now. Okay, poll is good to go. We don't have many of you voted yet, so do please dive in and start voting. If you think this is an A, because it's A to D, because you just love vampires, go for it. If you think this place is a shitty little backward hole in the middle of nowhere that no one sane would want to visit, then you drop that down to a D. If you think it lies somewhere in between, you know what to do.
You do have a cool view of the big old active volcano that a god was burnt out of. So that's kind of cool in the distance.
That'll change everything.
Also, this place makes for a fantastic role play.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool role place.
A lot of really, really fun stuff can happen here.
Cool.
But
we got any super chats in?
Yes, we have a ton actually. Ricky Chapman, in
I don't
our
think.
campaign, we had to go to Karankar. In another, we needed to make an impression on the Druchi, so we used the Wind of Beast to tame a large Leviathan and a very large Wyvern, along with 20,000 greenskins. And then I know, I think they would be relatively impressed.
I didn't have that many. We had, because I've used Karankar a lot in my games as well, and we did have one of the Slave Raids Return Corsairs with over 5,000 greenskins for just one single sale. And the sale was, for the 5,000 greenskins, was the equivalent of 2 high elves.
Yeah. Also, a fun fact:
the same amount of money as 2 high elves.
For those that are a fan of Warhammer Online: Age of Reckoning, the 2 big bads, Grumlock and Gazbag, were actually greenskin slaves from the slave markets of Karankar that Malekith purchases, and he gives them amulets that make them like super crazy powerful. All right, that is time, and it is agreed everywhere. Interestingly, C. I would have slapped that straight down to D personally.
Yep, easy D for me. But if you want it to be C, C it is.
But the bottom of C.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next up, we're going somewhere actually quite fun. So we're on to Zandri, the fleet port of terror. So,
the fleet port of terror.
When it was alive, when it was a living city, it was known much more nicely as the city of waves. Much nicer, but then everybody died horribly. So Zandri, once upon a time, was it was one of the wealthiest and most powerful cities in notable periods of Nehekar's history when they were trading with the wider world. When they had relationships with the High Elves, when they had relationships with some dwarfs and other human realms that could be found out in the world. Zandri is also where the great what was the Great River Vitae during this era, where it dumps out into the wider ocean. So they controlled everything that went inland to the rest of Nehekara, but they also had because that's where the Vitae River was leading out, they benefited greatly from how like the waters mixed together and the unique flora and fauna it created in those regions. And it was a port that traded in absolutely everything. They did not give a damn. They traded in anything you could possibly think of. They also, notably, their patron deity was Kuaf, the Nehekaran, who's the god of serpents and the god of subtlety, which you can imagine is great for a city that has a lot of merchants and trading and pacts being dealt with and people constantly bartering and all that stuff. It was also when not just during Cetra's lifetime, but everyone that came after Cetra, these great fleets would go out of Zandri, raid and attack other parts of the world and bring back great treasures from as far as Norska, debatably Ulthuan, but like all over the old world, the Southlands and beyond. It was a really, really important place. And then everybody died. Nagash unleashed his great ritual, and the land of Nehekara was poisoned, and every living thing was put to the sword that survived somehow, and the great river Vitae became the Great Mortis River and turned red like blood. And Zandri went quiet. But since those days, Zandri has the Great Reawakening. Zandri has become, as far as the old world is concerned, the most haunted, spooky ass port that you will find. It is the reason it's called the Fleet Port of Terror. That's not what the Tomb Kings call it. It's what everybody else calls it. Because if anybody has to get anywhere close, like if you're trying to venture down to the Southlands in particular from the old world, the big rule of thumb, especially if you're coming out of the Black Gulf, is stay the fuck away from Zandri. Because there are great Baroque ships that are made of bone, some of which are said to fly over the water itself. They don't actually go through the water, they float above it. Some go through the water. Depends on which author.
Some just rise out of the water. The bones sloshing off water.
Yeah, crewed by legions of skeletons that have been chained to their ships with statuary and other nonsense. Some of their ships so large, thanks to the Dreadfleet game, that they have full-on pyramids on them that shoot laser beams at you. And many of them have statuary built into the sides that look ornamentary, but then when you get close, they come to life and are slamming down. It is a place that exists to kill the living. Xandri's job, as it currently exists in the modern world, is to keep everyone else out. But because it is a port and it was built to receive ships, it is often a primary location for people attempting to raid the land of the dead.
You have to be an idiot to go in through that route.
Yes, and if you want to see a great example of this, the only old world book we have, which is oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. The oh my god, the new book about Bretonia attacking the two kings.
Can't remember what it's called. I've got it over here somewhere though.
Yeah, someone in chat will remember. But that book literally follows a little Bretonian crusade attacking Xandri in the hopes of using it. Lords of the Lands, thank you. Lords of the Lands.
Oh, the novel, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lords of the Lands follows a big old host of Bretonians landing in Xandri going, oh, look, a convenient port that's definitely dead and there's no problems. And then Xandri wakes up. And it's ugly. It's super ugly. Like, they survive that particular encounter, but it's so bad that they don't go back through it. They leave over land through the Badlands instead.
Yeah, we can sum this one up pretty easily. This is the center of undead might from the lands of the dead in terms of their navy. This is where they sail from. This is where all the ships rise from the waters and then head out towards wherever it is that they're going to attack. This is also a dead city. It's now ruins, covered in sand. Nothing lives here. It is a hellhole that, yes, might be full of treasures, but it's also full of ghosts and grasping skeletons that can rise at any moment. It's the sort of place you don't want to visit. It isn't a trading center. It isn't a great populous gatherer. It isn't somewhere that people come for a visit to look at the lovely things. This is a place that does one thing, protects the rest of the lands of the dead, and when required, all the great undead ships rise out from the waters to stalk across the mist-filled, haunted seas that they will then hopefully attack across. It's basically an undead fortress.
Yeah, the area around it, I think, is literally called the Gulf of Terror. Like, it's not, nobody in their right mind goes there except for desperate treasure hunters and idiots.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's fair.
Yeah, but when it was alive, totally different story.
Lovely place, but that hasn't been that for a long time.
Yeah, but it has actually featured in a surprising number of fun stories.
It's a cool location.
Whenever a Tomb King decides to go after someone that stole their goodies, like when Cetra invaded Norska, he leaves via Xandri.
Xandri, exactly.
It's their only big port, unless you go over on the other side of the mountains to Liberus, but that's a different tale. And
plus, it makes for a super fun location if you want to deal with undead politics and the discussions between the various Tomb Kings, because obviously the local rulers control all of this, which means you've got to get them on side if you want to go raiding into Estalia or something.
Yeah, Xandri, there actually are fun politics around Xandri of that when the Tomb Kings do require a fleet, they have to negotiate with whatever kings are awake or the Lich Priests and such. And there are things that
Amenenhetum, is that his name? Amenenhetum? I can't remember. But he's the primary Tomb King down there.
Yeah, and they're like all Tomb Kings, they're an ornery lot.
Yeah, they are. 100%.
Let's go super chats really fast.
Yeah, good idea.
Scion, are we including Fu Chao and Fu Hong in this list? There is Fu Chao. We did one port from each large geographical area. Also, Andy, what's the next Final Fantasy 14 stream?
That's probably the next couple of days or so. I'm catching up with work just now because I had no work PC for a full week, which was weird. As I said, got a lot of James Bond played. I'm catching up with work first. I've got a bunch of work to do tomorrow, and if that all lands well, I'll probably do it in the equivalent of my Thursday morning, but we'll see.
Yep, and
Catch up War first.
playing more Final Fantasy 14 after dinner after the stream, so that'll be fun.
Oh, sweet.
Benjamin Fraser, this place would be a lot more interesting as a city where the living and undead train live together relatively peacefully. Yeah, sadly, that role has been claimed by a different city, which is good old.
It's that one in this. I can't remember what it's called either.
It's further east. It's close to Xandri, but it's further east in the Badlands. Very southern Badlands.
God damn it. Anyway, let's move on so we don't look like idiots.
Zero Diamond, do the Wastelanders call themselves that? And if so, why do they have such a negative sounding name for their own region / people? Or is it an exonym?
So I think it probably is an exonym.
Numis, thank you. Numis.
Yeah, thank you. Probably is an exonym, but I think they were called Westerlanders before that. And then when it became the Wasteland, it was very much what the Empire called it, but it was called the Wasteland in the first Warhammer maps, and they've never changed it since. And it means that there's always this weird thing when you're attempting to get a pitch past Games Workshop to say, this is obviously a stupid name for them to call themselves, Wastelanders. Can we possibly give them their own name for themselves, which hasn't used very much in the rest of the old world? And Games Workshop has proven to be sometimes resistant, sometimes totally cool with that. But Wastelander is, if we go with the actual background, what they call themselves and their language. It's Wastelander.
Yeah, I would say that if I was playing a roleplay group, I feel like that's something other people would call them. They would call themselves Westerlanders because that's just so much. That sounds because it sounds derogatory, which would be perfect. Like, yeah. All right, so votes are in. This one was actually kind of all over the place.
Oh, really? Wow, look at that.
Actually, it looked like a really nice slope. But ultimately, the bottom of the slope won out, and we have a D tier.
Correct.
Yes, it's not. it's not really a port anymore. It's more just a defensive barricade.
Back in the day, it was an easy B, possibly even an A, judging by some descriptions of it. Particularly given the megalithic architecture that it has, it's probably beautiful. But now it's an easy D.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next up, we've got Barak Var.
Okay, this one, again, because of time, we're going to have to be relatively swift, but this one is easy. Dwarves don't do sea. Dwarves do mountain holds, except for Barak Var. Barak Var is where the Karakankor can effectively spread outwards across the oceans from the Varenka Hills. Now, the Varenka Hills are a set of hills in the Border Princes that are closer to small mountains, and they butt up really close to the sea. And it's here in great underground caverns that Barak Var can be found. And Barak Var is, to just keep it super quick and easy, where the dwarfs go to sea from. Do they like it? No. They don't like sea. It's not their natural place, but it is a required component of trade if you want to go quickly, and a required component of defending yourself against potential attacks from the sea. It used to be the primary route through which the High Elves would speak to the dwarfs back in the day, way back before they were High Elves and they're just the Azuriani. They would come in through this primary port and the elves weren't going through one of their own ports. It is the primary route into the dwarf empire or kingdoms, for want of a better description, but it is ultimately just a dwarf hold on the ocean with great sea caverns that is filled with all of their ship-making holds in their dry docks, where they build their giant paddle steamers. They tried using sails, found them deeply unreliable, and they didn't last very long. So eventually they went for the metal equivalents. And they use, instead of using the great propellers that you get from, say, gyrocopters and similar, they largely use great big paddles to push their vessels across the world. And from Barak Var, they do travel pretty far. They've crossed the oceans on more than one occasion, and their big dreadnoughts hold a lot of the waters down in the south of the old world against potential attack. They are very effective, but there's not that many of them. In comparison to, say, the first fleet of the Empire, it's much smaller. Their fleet is not very big, but what it is covered, bristling with guns, and they have a host of advantages that other fleets don't have. They have, for example, submersibles. They literally have submersibles under the water with a bunch of red-crested idiots piloting their underwater vessels that are ultimately tantamount to suicide because they are so dangerous and so likely to just go down and drown everybody inside them. They don't like using them, which is why Slayers are the primary crew that you will find inside these vessels. But long story short, this is the dwarfs' only port. There is no other. In terms of trade, any dwarf trade that they have into this hold doesn't really make it out to the rest of the dwarf holds very well. It's pretty much just Barak Var's trade. They don't trade out into the rest because they don't have that great communication level anymore. Their roads, sure, carry some goods, but this is ultimately a center of trade for many, but it's not the biggest.
Yeah, it kind of basically functions as a stopping point between like Karazakarak and the sea, is that you go from Karazakarak across the Varenka Hills to Barak Var, and then you're out into the ocean. But the one of the other major things is that Barak Var, honestly, its two biggest things that it contributes as a port to the world is as a place of ocean invention, the creation of new weapons and types of ships and stuff. They are pumping out new types of vessels faster than anybody else in the world by a hilarious. Well, it's because most people are just kind of making the same things over and over.
Yeah, but out there doing sorry, they've been making their paddle steamers for ages.
Yeah, there's one other group, sorry, that I'm not counting, but they're insane.
Yeah, quite. I mean, they sort of be making, they've got designs that work and they've kind of stuck in them for centuries now.
Yeah, the ironclads, there have been, you're getting a lot more unusual engineers in Barak Var, and it's because the whole thing of going out in the ocean is bizarre anyway. So Barak Var likes to be a little experimental with bizarre things from a dwarf point of view, which is still slow. But the major thing that Barak Var does is they're basically kind of the guardians of the Black Gulf, which is a very for like the Border Princes. The Border Princes would not have a functioning trade if it was not for Barak Var, bluntly, because greenskins are constantly coming up from the Badlands.
But in many respects, it's also a block to trade, and it's one of the things that stops the Border Princes becoming bigger because the dwarves just keep it. Fuck the rest of the world. The dwarves are very stubborn and they keep as much as they want, meaning that the Border Princes come down to trade with Barak Var and some of them are just turned away. Oh, here you go. We don't care about you. Dwarves are dwarfs. They are a stubborn group. And Barak Var may be a far more forward-thinking group, and I would argue the Barak Var dwarves are potentially the future for dwarves as a whole because they do accept others. They don't have big quarters for outsiders, but they do have quarters for outsiders, unlike most of the holds where they're like, are you a dwarf? No? Fuck off then. We don't need you. You can come in, do a bit of trade, and then piss off again. You're not going to live here. This is our home. Where Barak Var is quite different. It's more, as far as dwarfs are concerned, cosmopolitan than you would find elsewhere. And it's far more outward thinking.
Yeah, and it's also considered like one of the great port. Like if your goal is to go to places like the Southlands or the Badlands, you're like a great adventurer and stuff. It's kind of the last stop of civilization.
The last stop before you go anywhere else. Don't think of this as one of the great ports of the world. It just isn't. It isn't. It's a dwarf hold that has access to a really interesting and unique fleet that's not the most sizable, but it is a unique, cool fleet. And each of these vessels are much like steam tanks, almost artifacts in their own right. And they're constantly refining and protecting and updating them with the engineers because it is an engineering center for the dwarves. And they are much more forward-thinking in terms of how they deal with it. You've got to remember that forward-thinking for a dwarf means they'll spend a century on their invention. Yeah, it's not fast, but it is for dwarfs. For dwarfs, it's super speedy.
Yep, so polls up, get your votes in, polls up. We'll end that one pretty swiftly, so please do get your votes in quick. Jake Harper, first stream cobble, thanks so much for coming by, thank you. Thoughts on Grumberdal having Felix's soul in Age of Sigmar? Felix is a dwarf friend and an oath to keep. Gotrek is yet to meet his doom. So I would say that the material that we have doesn't support this theory, because we do actually see Felix's soul if you go read Ghoul Slayer, which an Age of Sigmar book about Gotrek. You actually see Felix's soul and he talks to him just a little bit. We don't know where it is. Somebody has it, or it's like hidden somewhere. But Grumberdal we've also seen a lot of, and Grumberdal has also encountered Gotrek and spoken with him several times. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of this. If you're doing like your own soulbound adventure or something, you could tell a story with this, but I would say the modern material doesn't support it.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting gleeful. No for Xandria during its heyday. Yes, it's on the north coast, but I imagine the Vitae also allowed stuff to be shipped from the Southlands.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
Although it's more that the trade would move up and then be brought down the river because rivers significantly multiply the distance that goods can go.
Sign of the Emperor. Should we count Zarnagran as a port city? Not for the sake of this stream.
No.
Though, like, we thought about it, and
we did.
You could argue that it could. It does have access to both the Sea of Dread and the Sea of Chaos. Yes, it does. Through the River Ruin, their entire fleet is contained within when not deployed.
For the purpose of this stream, it's a river city. It's not one of the great seaport cities.
Yeah, it's like Altdorf.
It's like Altdorf. Altdorf has an entire freaking fleet there. But yeah, not best fleet.
Getting gleeful. Reply from Verilis gave me an idea. Slash a character who uses ground up Tomb Kings as paint, like the Victorians did with mummies, with the twist that their souls bound to the paint. That's a really kick-ass idea. That's super.
That's
fun.
Good, Gideon. Love that.
Good.
Yeah. Good idea.
We're going to go ahead and call time. And that is going to be
a B. Yeah, B seems fair. There's a part of me that's really harsh that goes maybe a C, because it's not that big in the greater scheme of worlds. But there's a part of me that goes A because it's the only dwarf port that's worth mentioning outside the Norse dwarfs up in the top and the north, and their ports are by comparison quite small. Barkvar is a whole hold. So there's a part of me that goes it maybe should be that, but I think it's good. I think it's B.
Yeah, I think B is really reasonable for, especially considering the written material we have about it. The biggest shame for Barkvar, in my opinion, has always been that the army books only ever wrote it from a military land perspective, and there's like almost nothing written about like what it's like as a trade post, and stuff like that. So it's not as detailed as I would like it to be. So yeah.
I feel. And where does it sit between Longueuil and Ehrengrad?
I put it at the bottom of the B.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like just because like it's a very conservative place. Which
I agree. I think it's fair. I imagine with a rewrite, it could be right the way up at an easy AS, but they need to rewrite to be that. And I think without really contradicting much of the background, this city could become an AS without any great extra detail. It just needs to be much more firmly written into the background of what it is. Cool. Who's next?
Maragliano!
Holy shit, look how much time we've got left. We're at time, and we're only halfway, but we can do a lot of these quickly, I presume.
Yeah, the ones that we're coming up to, a lot of them are like, there's literally
super short, yeah. So Maragliano, from my side, it's going to be super easy. Telia is one of the great trading nations of the old world and the world as a whole. The individual principalities have all got their own way of moving from A to B, but the one with the largest fleet and the biggest port is Maragliano. Maragliano is in the north of Tilia, not too far away from the hellscape that is the Skaven Blight side of things. Let's not think about that too much. And it is a city that is built on islands and is filled with, I mean, it's basically Venice, but a bit bigger and Warhammered up. If you know Venice, then you know a lot about Maragliano because they used a lot of Venice to inspire what they do with Maragliano. And it is, if we're keeping it nice and simple and nice and short because of the time, the greatest Tilian city for trade and exploration. Exploration comes from here. The city itself is filled with engineering marvels because of Leonardo de Maragliano, who has designed entire sections of the city itself. And of course, we have equivalents of leaning towers doing leaning tower type things all over the place as well. But again, these towers never fall over because they were built by Leonardo, who is too cool to allow a tower to ever fall. Cut a long story short, Maragliano is the biggest of the Tilian fleets, a center of trade, but not the center. It's on the end of the River of Echoes, which is the primary trade route between the Empire and Tilia. So that is a river that goes underneath the vaults, and you can sail down that. And it has ships that go backwards and forwards underground, because why the hell not? Sounds awesome to me. Now, the city on the other side is tiny. a tiny little place on the other side, Cruishofen. It should be much bigger because it's the primary route that Tilian trade takes into the Empire. But it's written back in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1 and no one's ever bothered to update it. So it's a tiny village on the other side in comparison to the giant city of Miragliano. Miragliano is in the greater scheme of old world cities, not the biggest. We're probably talking hundreds of thousands here. We're not talking the million plus that you'll find in, say, for example, Marienburg. So it's big. It's very Tilian coded. It has the biggest fleet of all the Tilian cities and is as often at war with other Tilian cities as it is with anybody else.
Yeah, things that I would add is that Miragliano, I think Andy kind of alluded to this, but this is in many ways one of the great hearts of the adventurers of the Warhammer world. The people that are seeking to set out on crazy adventures, whether it's to Lustria or the Southlands or the Land of the Dead or Ulthuan or Cathay, a lot of them begin their journeys here or go here to suit up for their journeys because it's a place of weirdness, but like in a delightful, chaotic, human way.
It's also this the center for mercenary hiring. You can get more mercenaries from Miragliano than you can from almost any other place in the old world. So this is where many of them hold their offices because it is so close to the Empire, but it's also close to, obviously, all of Tilia as well, who make great use of mercenaries.
Yeah, this is the place where the most bizarre, fictional-sounding bullshit stories happen that all turn out to be hilariously true. And it is one of the greatest cultural melting pots of the world just because so many people are coming in from so many bizarre different places. But it's also a hilarious, chaotic mess. It is a very, very messy place compared to like many of the other ports we've talked about where like, you know, it's ruled over by the merchant princes who are constantly backstabbing and fucking with each other. It's even more chaotic and messy than Marienburg in a lot of ways. And it, whenever you read about, like Andy said, there's all these great bridges connecting all these different places, and there's constantly fighting and messes happening. And it's a very exciting, bizarre place that should have a lot more development than it does.
And ultimately, that's it.
It's basically the Marienburg of the South.
But a lot smaller, it's worth noting. A lot smaller. Marienburg is the biggest city probably in the old world until Games Workshop decides it's not. Yeah,
I'm thinking ABCD for this.
ABCD sounds fine. It would be no, it's not going to be a D, is it? Oh, SABC sounds fine. If someone wants to make it an S, oh well, it's up already, so screw it.
Well, no, I'll fix it right now. It's easy. So we'll do SABC. Originally, I had SABC, but I was like, is it? But yeah, I think it is.
I think it's more likely to be an S than it is a D. It can't really be a D.
That's very fair. Okay, so we got S, A, a B, and C. All right, polls up. Please get your votes in. We'd really appreciate that. Get your votes in. But from there, let's grab some super chats while that vote's coming in. We're going to give no more than 2 minutes. Short, quick. Hardcore, what period in Warhammer would the fishermen attack Nehekhara like the historical men of the sea attacked Egypt? That likely, if you were trying to make something like that happen, which you totally could, I would probably set it
in the early reigns.
I would do it maybe before Cetra even.
Yeah,
I would
me too.
I would do it between
Nehek
and Cetra.
And Cetra. Yeah, between Nehek and Cetra seems to be the best options.
Yeah, so it's going to be old, like really old. TBI Hydroarchaeology. Quick question. Is there any ancient cities that could be on this list?
A bunch of the ones on this list are ancient.
Yes, quite a few of these are very, very old. Like easily multi-thousands. So yes, I don't know how ancient would have to be for you.
I mean, Xandri's freaking old.
Yeah, like
Longwheel was originally an elven city.
Lothern is like nearly 10,000 years old.
Yeah, although if you go with different stories, Lothern used to be a small fishing port to begin with, but
True.
If you go with the most recent ones, by the time of Calador the Conqueror, it was already a huge city. So Lothern is freaking ancient. So yeah, I mean, I think we're doing okay with the ones we have.
Amadeus Carcosa. Is Xandri special compared to the other Nehekaran cities because the curses of Nagash unleashed to the river Mortis all dredged onto Xandri before diluting the sea?
No, but it should be.
Yeah, so Xandri has never gotten that level of examination. Never.
No, it hasn't.
It literally gets maybe 2 paragraphs every Tomb King Army book, and there was only like 2 or 3 of those. So the answer should be yes, but it's never explored in that depth of detail.
Yeah, agreed.
Sire of the Emperor, I do feel like Fu Hong might be worth considering as it sits at the end of the Great Canal where the Cathane ships can sail into the ocean between Inca Koresh, and it's a pretty strategic location. My counter is A, we don't have enough time, and B, there's virtually nothing written about it.
Yeah. Anything we said we'd be making up.
Yeah, like at least Fu Shao, there is something we can discuss. Fu Hong, there is nada. So that one I'm happy to wait on. All right, that's time. And Maragliano gets a very healthy A.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And speaks to the Venice nature that it has in terms of, because Venice was an extraordinarily important port back historically. The Tilia has yet to properly have the equivalent projection that, say, for example, Rome had in the real world historically. Rome would be way up in this list, for example. By comparison, Maragliano slips down a little bit.
Yeah,
I think he is fine.
If Talea gets the development this should become historically an A-tier city.
And I think very possibly Remus will be the one that is top tier.
Remus should get big upgrades because Remus, there's so much left on the ground there.
Absolutely, but as it currently stands, just not well written enough. This is a nice easy one. Spineport.
Next. Spineport, the first underport on this list. Mm-hmm. So, if you were sitting in Marienburg, you would be able to talk to some sailors and learn that just across the Gulf, there is a great stone cliff that basically blocks off what is actually technically still part of Talea, even though a lot of people think it's part of Estalia, but it's not. It actually belongs to Talea still. But there's this great cliff on the opposite end, and it's full of holes, absolutely riddled with these giant holes all over the place. And you can sail into it, and it is a way to get to the notable city that is up on the cliffs around there. However, what is unknown to many, to borrow. But what is unknown to many is that there is a far greater port beneath Tabaro, which is the mighty Skaven port of Spineport. Mighty in very generous multiple quotation marks. Spineport is a giant fucking mess that sprawls out through all these caverns and over the ocean itself within the caverns. And it is the closest thing the Skaven have to a port, where it is this mess of ruined ships and wrecks and detritus lost at sea, all collected together with typical Skaven quality and ingenuity into a horrific mass that sometimes vomits out ships of bizarre industrial capabilities, some of which are nightmarishly powerful but prone to blowing themselves up, and
most of which
are hilariously, very generously described as floating rafts. It is the headquarters of Clan Scurvy, who are on the Council of 13 because they are the primary controllers of all naval power within Skavendom. And they are a fierce clan. They're huge, and this is their base of operations.
Yeah, to keep this one quick, this is arguably the second most important Skaven port, but we're not doing our inland ports because the most important one's Skavenblight itself. Which is where the majority of Skaven fleets come from. But we have ourselves a mist-enshrouded warren that's very close to the barrow, which spits out not just Clan Scurvies, but as I recall, Clan Ricketts there as well. Yes. And there's another clan there as well. I can't remember off the top of my head. And the three primary naval clans all work from here. Now, is this a big trading port? No. What this is just another Skaven Undercity. And this is a Skaven Undercity that primarily works on the oceans. And it's quite unlike any of the other Skaven cities, for want of a better description, because of this. And they project power of the Skaven out onto the oceans. Now, are they commonly seen? No, because there's not actually that many of them. They don't rule the waves. They tend to get sunk whenever they go against others. They work best at night. They hug close to coastlines. They're not the most capable of fleets in the greater scheme of things. But when they work well, they work very well. And because of this, Clan Scurvy in particular has managed to claim itself a seat in the Council of 13. Yeah, there's very little detail for what's in here, other than it's by Tabaro, and there's multiple politicking clans within it.
Yeah, interestingly, funny enough, when it's Clan Scurvy, and which comes out of course, the good old Spineport, they bizarrely seem to specialize more in sneaking onto vessels coming in and out of that Gulf. So like Leono, Remus, and everything, they're very, very good at getting Skaven from Spineport onto those ships that then go out and go do other things. And then it's a port that when Skaven are traveling around and they need to get to a port, a lot of slaves and larger things come into Spineport, which then make their way.
Then go down underground. There's quite a lot of slave trade here, but comparing it to say somewhere like the Dark Elf equivalent would be a little bit like comparing London to a small town some 50 miles outside of London. It's so much smaller in terms of the amount of slaves coming through, but there is still a lot, because they do slave raids from here. Clan Scuttle, that's the third one. How could I forget that? It's just another stupid little punny name. Clan Scuttle. So it's Clan Scuttle, Ricket, and Scurvy that are working from there. But there's little else we can say. It's a Skaven port that is hidden amongst all the labyrinthine islands and cliffs by mist, so isn't easily spotted by Tabaro, and is, in the greater scheme of things, not really known about much like most Skaven. So it's not like everybody's going, this is where all the Skaven come from, because they don't push out their fleets like that. But during wartime, this is where they'll sail out from. And you might not see them for like 50 years, 60 years, and then suddenly an entire Skaven fleet comes out because it's being commissioned or paid for by another warlord clan elsewhere, or they're attacking.
Most of their great fleets, the reason they're even known is because of how spectacularly they blew up. Yeah, like they tried to invade Ulth 1, didn't go well. They tried to establish a naval route between Spineport and the Gates of Calith because they were trying to establish with the Darklands. That ended in spectacular failure. So yeah,
so basically, the great Lords of Decay commission a new fleet. That new fleet comes out every once in a while, blows up, and they go away from the idea, and then they come back like 20, 30 years later and go, wait a minute, I think we can do it right this time. Yeah, and they commission another fleet, and the great clans come out with them. They're you know.
Yeah, please get your polls in, get your votes in. We'll leave that out for just a minute. Ricky Chapman, by the way, when we talked about Karen Carr, those greenskins were for sale. We were playing orcs, working for Gorfang Rockgut, who was recently cheated by the rookie. We were giving them a warning and renegotiating the price of dwarfs. That's very fun. Gorfang, how's Gorfang getting involved with Dark Elves from all the way? Goddamn.
That is a risky prospect, and 20,000 sounds like a lot, but for greenskins up there, isn't.
Yeah, really. That's a long way to successfully get.
Yeah, that'd certainly be enough to make them, consider: do we enslave them or not?
Getting gleeful. Actually, Rome wouldn't be high on the list because it's not on the coast. Ostia was the main.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it time because
that was a very good deployment of them, actually.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And
Constantinople. Let's say that one instead.
C tier. And I say it goes all the way to the goddamn bottom of C.
I think that's generous, but also understandable.
Yeah, like even at least New Beckhofen is like a functional port that has stuff going on. Spineport is a mess.
It's a proper mess. But it is a trading center, and it's constantly failing downwards rather than upwards because they're saving. But yeah, right. I think that's a good one. It's fun.
Next up. Okay, so we're moving quick here. We're on to Fushao.
Yeah,
so
Fushao
is based on the material we have now, which once again is not a ton, but it is there. This is the great, huge cosmopolitan port city of Grand Cathay, the seat of Yin Yin's power, the Sea Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And this city, from the notes we've gotten from the Old World Total War, is fucking colossal. Like, it is titanic in scale.
It didn't say Titanic anywhere that I read, because I had a quick look up for this one. It just said big.
It's very big.
Yeah, it's big, just to make sure that we are being as balanced as we can be. But it's still, I mean, it's where Yin Yin is.
Yeah, it has very notable populations of dwarfs, high elves, ogres, humans. Basically, anybody that's anybody is here. It is a very, very large center of trade, and because people have to travel so far to get here, that's why the quarters are so big. Is that you have all these merchants and various groups that move in, and then many of them just stay here, just negotiating and sending in and out various missives. Fushao has not gotten, admittedly, that much treatment. Like, we kind of know more about Beishai than we do Fushao, but Beishai is much, much smaller. But it's because it features as where they've got notable cult problems. We do get some notes that for Fushao, that this is, of course, the great harbor for the Dragon Fleet, like the Dragon Fleet. And it also connects, it's one of the great guarding points to the Central Riverlands. So there are large ports within Cathay itself, because you see all of these massive rivers to get to these great lakes, which is the Central Riverlands, where Yuan Bo mostly holds power, and they send basically all of the goods from wider Grand Cathay. The entirety of Cathay almost sends all of their stuff down to the Riverlands, which then work their way down the Riverlands and arrive at Fushao, which then goes out to the wider world. There is so much, but just the sheer mass of stuff passing through here is bonkers.
Yeah, we don't have a lot.
No.
So we can summarize what we have pretty easily. This is where Yin Yin rules. This is where the Great Dragon Fleet has its greatest concentration, and that's both in terms of its naval might, so the naval might of Grand Cathay, as well as the mercantile fleet, which is all combined into one great force. The naval might of Nippon, which very little we know about that, it's like almost nothing other than it can hold off against this fleet, and that's it, is negligible because we know nothing. So all we have is the great trade that comes from here, but we have some issues. There is nowhere for them to trade with that isn't bloody miles away.
Oh, yeah.
We've got End, sure, Koresh, bad guys. And then, holy crap, we've got nothing forever. So unlike Marienburg, which is at the center of trade, and Althuin, which is also another central point of trade, on the opposite side of the world, it is the end point of trade. And also the starting point of trade. This is not a center. It is also, perhaps surprisingly, a center for the pirate fleets as well, because the great shanties around the town are full of pirates. And apparently, they're off in the high seas doing piratical stuff. Do we have anything beyond a single sentence on that? Not that I found. But we've got enough to say. Shanties, great shanty towns around it, from which the biggest pirate fleets over in the Eastern theaters are drawn. But we have almost nothing beyond that. It's the great Eastern equivalent of Marienburg, if you desperately want to try and put a light-for-light look in it. But unlike Marienburg, it's not at the center of trade. It is almost certainly bigger, but we don't know that.
Yeah, this is the glorious endpoint to all of those merchants that are steeping their fingers together in the old world. Is I want to trade with Cathay, so either I go over land, in which case I'm aiming for Shenyang, or I'm going over sea, in which case I'm aiming for Fushao. And the different dangers and advantages that come with those two routes.
And I want to bring this one up. No, because they're marked as enemies and no one trades with them except on rarer occasions. They trade, but not much. They're basically sitting at loggerheads with each other with the tiny amount of background that we have. That will almost certainly change, though.
Yeah, if Napalm gets featured on, it's very possible they will start being like a major thing. Go ahead and put the polls up. We are coming into this is one of our last polls, so please do get your votes in because we're aiming to wrap up here. Getting Gleeful. Wouldn't they be able to trade with Napalm in Warhammer Korea? We don't know.
We don't know, and Warhammer Korea at the moment is almost just Grand Cathay. It's just more. We have so little detail about this part of the world. If they do the detail that part of the world deserves, the answer will be yes. But as it stands, unlike, say, for example, the potential for trade across the ocean to Nagaroth, as it currently stands, there's fuck all on that side. It's not anything other than an end point for everyone else's trade routes, but it is a big end point.
Yep. All right. That's time, and we have a majority for S.
I think that's fair. It is an S tier city with what little we have. Do I think it's more important than Marienburg? Not yet, but I think it will become that as they do more detail. Do I think it's more important than Luzerne as it stands? I'm not sure it ever will be.
Yeah, I think as the East continues to get fleshed out, it should become more important than Marienburg. But
I agree.
As of right now, I would say it is not.
Yep, agreed entirely.
I will put it at the bottom of S.
Okay, next one's super easy.
Yeah, Chup Yodel. So we were having a giggle, and for some reason thought we would get through this in a reasonable time. This one should be on the list, but we decided to throw it on. Chup Yodel, the sunken city. There's nothing there. It got dragged to the deepest trenches, and there's for some reason it mysteriously ended up on this list. Like there are rumors of little, I don't know, possible fish people down there, but I'm sure they're absolutely ridiculous. And fish people, I mean, is it really a port if like ships? I guess ships do go out from it, but they're like going up from it. Anyway, so we're not going to explain. I don't have anything else to explain about it, but allegedly,
so all I can say is, just so that we have a little bit of a story, it was an ancient lizardman city that fell down beneath the waters. And once it went down there, something happened. Is it a port? No. Is it a great trading center? No. Is it somewhere that idiots like, not Luther, pardon me.
Good old... the moment you said Luther, his
Look
name
here,
went out my head.
Look here, Fellhart. Bloody hell, the name just went from my head. I was like, ah! Yeah, look here, Fellhart to go diving down into, slaying beasts from all sides, somehow swimming to the bottom, pulling out a big wibbly mask, and come back up, having slain all manner of ridiculous creatures.
Only didn't turn him into an eldritch abomination. No, sir.
Definitely.
He's completely normal.
Now, I'm not saying that it involves much in the way of fish, man, but it probably does.
Yeah, like it's such a great vacationing spot. But anyway, just for funsies, we'd throw it on the list real quick. I will take this moment to say, as we're rapidly approaching the end here, to just once again say I cannot thank you all enough for the very generous support this stream. We really do appreciate it. I'm glad we did this one for a lot of reasons. It's actually a bit bizarre to me that we didn't do it sooner. It was one of those ones where like when we were like, what about ports? We were like,
yes, let's do that. That'll be fun.
We got that yet. Getting Gleeful, thank you for the super chat. I'm voting based on how it is in me and Ashkal's Fishman fan fiction, where it's basically Fishman Nuln.
Nice.
Yeah, which for anyone that wants to read the Lorebeards fanfiction, so I think it's on the. Do y'all have that on the Lawhammer?
Right. So I just want to say, yes, over on the Lawhammer server as well.
Yeah.
Just want to say there's currently a tie between S and D. So if you've got an opinion, drop it in now. You can make it move from S or D.
Ricardo Andre asks, how did Karan Kar go to D? Someone paid $50 to
drop it down because of the slavery.
Which, you know, as you can do. All right, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. Get your votes in. It's the great contest between
S and D.
And time.
It's just S over on YouTube.
And it was apparently unanimously S on Twitch. It's the greatest port in the world! because we at least have some power on it, we will send it to the bottom of S.
Clarkarond. Let's cover this one really quickly. Clarkarond is in a great fissure, a great valley in the earth, and it's where the vast majority of the Dark Elf fleet is built. It is, in the greater scheme of trading ports, much smaller than Clarkarond. Clarkarond is, cut a long story short, where all the fleets of the Dark Elves are built. It's a pretty big, impressive place, and it has been a source of rebellion for the Dark Elves on more than one occasions. Such is its power and its influence.
Yep, this is also the great Beastmaster city that fights with Karankar. It and Karankar are they're sister cities, to put it very bluntly.
Yeah. One is the center of trade. The other one is the center of shipbuilding, I suppose, and the Beastmaster training centers.
Yeah, it's also the great, where all of the greatest quarries of Naggaroth are located. Yeah, they're all around the Blackspine Mountains. But we got to pull up for that. Get your votes in quick because we are trying to get out of here because we are hilariously over time.
Yeah, we are.
Which is okay. We're getting through it. So once again, thank you all for coming to spend time with us. I'm gonna be vaguely doing the outro as we're heading towards the thing here. So I do want to say thank you all for spending your time with us. We really do appreciate it, especially with this stream running as long as it has. Those of you that are sticking it out all to the very end and getting your votes in for the last bit. I cannot express enough how much I appreciate y'all. Kuro awesome. Arcana, thank you for the super chat. My Wolfrock game, Lokir has a box of fins and fishman parts in his room. His crew thinks it's bait for beasts, but it's what he's had to cut off of his body. Ooh, that's good. I love that. That's gnarly. That's
nice.
And that is time.
What did it get?
And they got
an A. So this is accurate. This is exactly where it should sit. It's a big Dark Elf city, and it deserves to be up there. I put Meriglano above it though, because it's at least more thematically known. Right. So what's next?
Next, so we had a couple of people throw in some ones from the end. We have Tor Kuralai coming up next, which is basically the capital city of Yivris.
Yivris.
So
I don't know pretty much anything about that off the top of my head.
Yeah, it got majorly focused, or sorry, Kathik, not Yivris, Kathik. So it got a significant amount of focus thanks to the new books coming out from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. The Sea Wardens of Kathik pretty much revolves almost entirely around it.
Oh yeah, I've read that one. So it's just the town in that one, and I just forgot its name. There you go. Yeah, sure. Okay, it's a relatively mid-sized high elven city, which allows for very limited trade with the outside world and is relatively fun.
Yeah, it's basically the less it's the more casual way that the High Elves are able to interact with the what they see as the Western Oceans or the cities of the old world. And it's a place that produces a lot of the various the flying ships. They've got like fishmen, or not fishmen cavalry, men that ride fish cavalry. They've got a lot of the great sky vessels. They've got they're obviously protected by the mists, and they deal with a lot of the initial invasions. So when there are groups that are trying to invade Ulthuan, particularly from Norsca, like the Warriors of Chaos and such, they tend to run up against the ports and the naval forces of Yivris. I keep saying it, not Yivris. Kathik. Oh my god. And thanks to the new Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, it's actually gotten a significant amount of development, which is really, really nice.
It's a fine mid-tier high elven city with high elven stuff in it. I think it seems fine.
I would describe it as it went from a place that was non-existent to a place that is much more significantly important to the elves' control of the sea and what life on Ulthuan is like in the first place.
Yeah, it's not the biggest city in the world, though.
No.
It's fine.
Yep. All right, and that is...
Have you seen that super chat?
Time I have. Slavery is still cringe. Clarkarond to D tier. You know what?
Screw those dark elves.
That's very fair. Fuck the dark elves. Down to D they go. And Tor Kuralai goes up to B.
B.
Torkurla is kind of interesting. Like
I wouldn't put it above Barak Var though.
No, like they produce. I think B is fine, actually.
Yeah, I think B's pretty much perfect, but I wouldn't put it above Barak Var.
It's a growing force on Ulthuan, which gives it like a very unique contrast to Lothern, but it's so much smaller.
Yep, that seems fair.
Yeah, yes, that is very true, Rush. It is the smuggle port for Ulthuan. Like if you're trying to smuggle things into Ulthuan without and trying to take advantage of like its narrower focus, that is the place you should go. But the mists that guard the eastern side prevent it, I think, from being what it could be because it's more there for defense. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Sartosa, the island of pirates.
Sartosa. Okay, we have almost no time, so my summary for this one's going to be super short. It's pirates! Yar!
Sartosa is a genuinely fascinating, interesting place. It has a very complex history because it's been dominated by so many different cultures over the years. It's been ruled over by vampires. It's been ruled by dark elves. It's been ruled by Arabians or Arabians, depending on how you like to pronounce it. It's been controlled by Talaeans, and it's kind of the smorgasbord of cultures that has evolved into its own thing. It's the only place in the world we know of that has a great temple to Stromfels, where his worship is openly practiced. And a lot of people visit Sartosa because despite the fact that it's the great land of pirates, as long as you can defend yourself, it is a place where you can find and buy mercenaries, exotic goods, slaves, anything and everything you could be looking for, you could probably find. But it's dangerous, rough and tumble, and everybody's drunk.
Yeah, if I was going to drop in one fun detail from it, from the various things, it would be that one of the lighthouses there is made from a dragon tooth. How big was that fucking dragon?
Yes, the Dragon Tooth Lighthouse, which is one of the major landmarks in Total War.
In Total War 2.
Yeah.
I remember.
Fucking huge.
Yeah, totally. So that's a big dragon, but it's things like that teach us that Warhammer is not as simple as the battle game would suggest, because that's a dragon with a tooth that's big enough to hollow out and climb in. How big was that dragon?
Yep. And it's, of course, a place where you will find almost anybody. You'll find elves, dwarfs, humans, ogres, halflings, anything you could think of, you're going to find here, despite how small of a place it is. And it's an amusing land. And, of course, it's got good old Arnis Assault Spite living there. You know, if you are doing an adventure on the high seas, you're going to end up here sooner or later.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Sartosa is quite fun. So, the votes are in, and it's really surprising what the vote was.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe the most famous pirate location ended up with an overwhelmingly S tier.
So where would I put it? I'd put it above that one, but probably underneath all the rest.
Yeah, it is. For the Warhammer Fantasy world, it is a very, very important location. It's got an incredible history with the very small that's written about it. I really hope that it gets more focused content in the future because it's a really fascinating place.
Yeah, so that means at the end of our stream, at the top, we have Lothern for the High Elves, followed by Marienburg from the Wastelanders, then Fushao for the Cathaeans, followed by Sartosa R. And then finally, I don't know where this one came from, but it's pretty fishy if you ask me.
Yeah, it is awfully strange. I can't see how it got up there.
So thank you all for what I think was a super, super fun stream, and also thank you for your extraordinary generosity, not just in terms of sending super chats, but in terms of the votes and joining in with the chat, because it makes all the difference and it makes these streams much more fun. If you enjoyed it and you think that the outcome is nonsense, then please go into the Lorebeards Discord, go find the link for this, and go post your own version of this particular tier list. You can just go make your own tier list and post your own version up inside our Discord.
Hawk, yeah, there's a thread for it now. Hawk has named it the peer list.
The peer list.
And I have. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I will post our results up there as well as on our socials if you want to have a fun time comparing and contrasting. And Hawk has posted a link so you can make your own. So you can make your own tier list and let us know where you would have placed everyone. Because looking at this, I think I agree with much of it. though admittedly, I would have put the Dark Elves significantly higher, I must say.
Yeah, you kind of have to, but at the same point, you kind of can't either.
Yeah. All right, last few things. Darius Rose, what sea monsters could Godzilla eat whole in Warhammer? It's fucking Godzilla. He could eat any of them he wants.
Yeah, I can't actually think of one that's big enough. I mean, granted,
it depends a lot on which version of Godzilla.
And also which version of the sea monsters you go with as well, because they've got different versions. The Black Leviathan, for example, is sometimes big enough to swallow entire ships whole, and that would be big enough to swallow Godzilla whole. But in other parts, it's less that.
Yep. Ricky Chapman, Sartosa to rum terror. Toss me a drink me hearty, rum terror.
Arr, it be rum, it be.
Yeah, so that is going to be the end of today's stream. We're very, very sorry for going over time, but I imagine most of you do not give a damn. So thank you. I once again, thank y'all very, very much. The generosity of the stream was nuts. We really deeply appreciate it. We're going to be heading out for now. We will be back on Sunday to talk about
we will. Talea. Oh, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's long overdue, to be frank. And I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten that there is a promise that I must fulfill in regards to that stream.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, you should. You should. Because we argued about how bad my pronunciations are this stream, and I'm gonna make it a whole fucking thing next stream. Just outside of that, real fast things. There's of course 40k Lorebeards will be back tomorrow as well as on Saturday. Do stay tuned for news about the return of the next episode of the book club as well as the next Elf God stream in the near future.
We're lucky that might be Sunday.
Very true. And from there, also, Lawhammer is back this Friday.
Yeah. We're gunning towards the end of campaign number 1, getting closer and closer with each passing week. But this Friday is, I think it's called the Conclave. I better check. It might not be called that.
Conclave of Light?
Yeah, not that, but kind of. It's a thing. Yeah. For those of you who've been watching, you'll know what's probably coming up next.
Yeah, and that's us done for today. So we're gonna get out of y'all's hair. I will check very, very briefly to see if there's anybody we could raid real fast, because that is the polite thing to do when you are a streamer. I don't see anyone on YouTube that we know, but I do see plenty of people on Twitch. So I'm gonna shunt y'all off, Twitch viewers. And for the rest of all, I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. Let's go to real fast. Is anyone? Oh, you know what? I see a guy that's painting Warhammer, or often paints Warhammer miniatures. That'll work. Y'all have a good one. Say hello to Halvernack for us. A channel cannot raid itself. I tried to raid the Lorebeards channel. That is, well done. That is, I am flying by the seat of my pants. Y'all be sure to say hi to him. Please take care of yourselves. Be safe out there, especially out in this heat for those of you in various parts of the world. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Until then, bye-bye.